Today's protagonist is Jack Draker, the first failed awakener of the Draker family. Born into a great clan, he was unfortunately cursed with a body that couldn't use the aura system. A failed awakening. As such, he was treated like trash and thrown out of his family. In his previous life, wanting to prove himself to his family and the one he loved, Jack tried to steal an ancient artifact. An artifact the Emperor was searching for, but he ended up being hunted by the Imperial Army and was cornered in an ice cave with 2 guards. By then, Jack's body was already battered. One of his arms was severed, and his chances of survival were nearly 0. But with the protagonist's overwhelming power, Jack used his teeth to grab his severed arm and reattach it. Having been mercilessly discarded like a defective product, Jack was willing to do anything to become stronger and survive. He gripped his sword and dashed toward the 2 soldiers. With a single clean slash, one of their heads fell to the ground. Seeing this, the other soldier panicked. He tried to raise his sword to fight back, but it was futile. No sooner had he dealt with them than another group arrived. The reinforcement troops had come swarming like ants to surround him. This time, survival truly seemed impossible. It was 2 against 1. You either get maimed or lose an eye. Even with his superhuman strength, unleashing everything he had against this horde wasn't enough in the end. With such overwhelming numbers, it was impossible to defeat them all. By the end, the reinforcement soldiers were nothing but corpses littered across the ground under Jack's blade. But Jack couldn't escape his fate either. Countless swords were stuck in his body as if trying to devour him whole, even though he had succeeded in stealing the rare artifact. But in the end, Jack still couldn't fulfill his duty to her, Alicia. At that moment, the artifact Jack had stolen suddenly began to glow, and a strange voice rang out. Your strong will has awakened an ancient power. The soul of an ancient dragon will be engraved upon the will of the persistent one. Emergency measures have been activated. Jack Draker, do you agree? Jack, on the verge of death, was delirious and unaware of what was happening. He only sensed that everything around him was blurry, hazy, and very loud. Unconsciously, he accidentally agreed with the system. Immediately, an irreversible power was activated. Just 5 seconds later, when Jack awoke and regained his senses, he found himself in his own younger body. Jack couldn't believe it. Just a few seconds ago, Jack had been impaled by a dozen swords, suffering excruciating pain. Yet now he was in his teenage body and in a room at the training academy, no less. No! The Draco family. To give a brief overview of the Draco family, it is one of the 3 great preeminent families. 1,000 years ago, Terraan Draco was the hero who saved the continent by slaying the evil dragon Bahamut. After that, his descendants founded the present-day Draker family. Perhaps because they are descendants of the dragon slayer Terraan, everyone born into this family is since blessed with an aura able to easily awaken a high-level one and become a knight. With the obvious exception of Jack, probably because he's a special character. The sound of the system rang out, startling Jack. Confirmed. The Awakener's soul is a 100% match. The soul of the chosen Awakener has accepted the will of the ancient dragon and has fully integrated. Confirmed. Now Jack could access a part of the system. A status window began to open in front of him. The information on it clearly displayed Jack's name. Current class Healing Mage Rare. Title Blessed by the Ancient Dragon. Class skills include healing and peace of mind, vitality recovery, and sensory enhancement. General skills include precise pierce, consecutive slashes, and critical strike. Critical strike is at D rank rookie, while the other 2 are E rank rookie. Causality is currently at 0 and cannot be viewed. Dragon skills. Jack was still confused by all this. Looking at the panel, he thought it looked like something from a magic video. He could even pass his hand right through it. What's more, the panel followed the movement of his hand. Jack looked closely at the panel again. The information on it was a bit hard for him to understand. After all, the dragon language was no longer in use in the current era. Jack recalled his master once saying that people in ancient times classified themselves into classes based on their skills, with each class training in a specialized technique. These were called skills. Jack's class was Healing Mage, so he could use a skill called Healing. Back when he first awakened, his master had trained him relentlessly to within an inch of his life. Even now, the memory sent a chill down his spine and gave him goosebumps. But in any case, according to the system window, he was now a Healing Mage. Jack decided to test his abilities right away. In his past life, Jack became a mage at the age of 20, right after Hall E was unlocked. Now Jack tried to focus the energy inside him. A purple aura of power radiated out and enveloped him, just as Jack suspected Hall E was already unlocked. This meant that even though he had regressed to the past in a smaller body, his skills and memories from his past life remained intact. Compared to before his regression, Jack was now in a much more advantageous position. Just as Jack was about to look into things more deeply, a knock on the door made him jump. He couldn't hide now, and he hadn't even finished reading everything. This system panel. He didn't know how to turn it off. While he was frantically fumbling, Jack's personal servant Decker walked in. "I can't believe the young master still isn't ready." A confused Jack asked back, "Ready for what?" Luckily, the man couldn't see the system window. Hearing Jack's question, Decker suddenly seemed annoyed, and a frightening killing intent radiated from him. It made Jack's skin crawl and his hair stand on end. Thinking back in his previous life, Jack had been truly terrified of Decker when he was a child, even though he now had the mind of a 32-year-old. But Jack could never forget. The fear was carved deep into his body. Just then, the system suddenly appeared, activating the Serenity branch. In an instant, all of Jack's anxiety and fear completely vanished. Serenity branch skill. The user's psychological state will not fluctuate regardless of the situation. They will be able to maintain their composure. Jack was extremely satisfied. It's great that this system can activate skills automatically. Just then, Decker was still rambling on, reminding Jack of something. Of course, he knew this man was talking about the Pancration evaluation test, the one that had utterly destroyed Jack in his previous life. Everyone in the Draker family goes through a training system called the Cradle. Starting from the age of 7 for 5 years, they undergo rigorous basic training. The instructors evaluate the new students each year through competitions, swordsmanship, as well as Pancration combat. There are no rules. Opponents are chosen by the instructors, but sometimes students can choose their own opponents if both agree. Because there are no rules, some end up with injuries or even lose their lives. But since this competition is used to select the class students will be placed in at the academy, the kids have no choice but to fight with everything they've got. In a large arena courtyard, a group of students stood in neat rows. The squad commander, hands clasped behind his back, began the session in a loud voice. "As you all know, today is the day of the Pancration tournament." "Yes," he continued. "I trust you all know that this is the final part of the evaluation, correct?" The students shouted in unison. "Yes, sir." The squad commander, also known as Head Instructor Panmac, nodded. "Good. It seems everyone's spirits are high. In that case, we'll begin immediately. Get ready." The students replied in unison again. "Yes, sir." At that moment, Jack Drake stood in the middle of the students being ridiculed and whispered about by those around him. "Isn't that Jack? After being humiliated last year, he's still here. Man, if I were him, I'd have run away by now. How can he be from the direct bloodline? So pathetic." Jack Drake, with a deadpan face, thought to himself, "I can hear everything you know." Just then, the instructor called out, "Aaron Gotha, step forward!" A "yes, sir" was heard in response. 2 students stepped onto the field, taking their stances. The instructor raised his hand high, signaling them to get ready. The moment his hand dropped, he yelled, "Begin!" And one of them lunged at his opponent with lightning speed. He threw a punch, but his opponent reacted instantly, kicking him straight in the chin. The boy spat out blood in pain, his eyes rolling back as he fell. Jack Drake, watching from the side, yawned lazily. "That match is over." That's what happens when you don't have a proper defensive stance. The fight ended. Result: Gotha is unable to continue. Aaron wins. "Jack Drake, you're up." Witnessing the fight, he rested his chin on his hand board and thought, "To think I used to be scared to death of this stuff as a kid. But these guys are nothing." He yawned again, unaware that far away in the opposite stands, a pair of vicious eyes were sizing him up. Leon Conrad cracked his knuckles, warming up as he watched. Jack Drake with a savage smile. Next match, Jack Drake and Leon Conrad step into the arena. Panmac asked, "Jack, Leon, are you two ready?" The boy said enthusiastically, "Yes, sir." He replied tiredly, "Yeah." Rubbing his eyes sleepily, he thought, "And my opponent is Leon of all people." Leon Conrad sneered, "Look at you. You actually came back." "Looks like I didn't take good enough care of you last year, huh?" Jack Drake replied nonchalantly. "Whatever." He remembered his past life, how terribly he was humiliated when he lost. "If you want to live, then beg for it, you parasite. I'm sorry, Leon Conrad. Please spare me this time." Jack Drake knew all too well that this was just a stupid, prearranged plan targeting him. After all, that guy was always his opponent every year. I'm sure he pulled some strings behind the scenes. His family would spew some nonsense like, "You have to overcome dirty tricks like this to become a true dragon slayer." Looking at Leon Conrad's arrogant, hateful face, he just felt sickened. Why is a piece of trash like that my cousin? Whenever he thought about his clan, Jack Drake always remembered the 4 cousins from the direct bloodline in his past life. The 4 siblings of the direct bloodline never had the chance to meet. However, there were dozens of other cousins who were always ready to bully him. Suddenly, Leon Conrad's voice cut through his thoughts. "I have to admit, Jack Drake," his voice dripping with sarcasm, "you've really got some nerve coming back here after getting the shit beaten out of you last time." Then Leon Conrad looked at him and mockingly tapped his own head. Or could it be system activating serene mind skill? Jack Drake calmed himself and sighed. "It's been a while since I've heard his stupid insults." He looked up straight at the boy and said firmly, "Hey, I'm not going to be so easy on you anymore if you call me that again." Leon Conrad, using his height advantage a full head taller to roughly mess up Jack's hair, even challenged him coldly. "So what are you going to do about it, you worthless mutt?" Bam! Jack Drake stood his ground and swung one arm, striking Leon Conrad hard across the face. Caught completely off guard, Leon Conrad was sent flying backward. System notification: critical hit skill activated. Critical hit skill D rank. Inflicts critical damage on the enemy. Can be countered in the event of a failed attack. The bloody scene left Leon Conrad in agony, clutching his face and screaming, My face! My face!" Jack Drake felt an overflowing surge of magical energy. He looked at his own hand a little stunned. "I only meant to knock him unconscious, but my skill activated from a normal punch. I really can't control my abilities well." Head Instructor Panmax shouted, "What are you doing, Jack Drake?" He crouched down, shielding Leon Conrad while simultaneously scolding Jack. "You attacked before I even declared the start." Jack Drake retorted, "Who waits for a get-ready-go on a battlefield?" He flashed a deadly, arrogant smile and said, "The one who strikes first gains the advantage." That expression made Head Instructor Panmax's eyes darken with fear. He broke into a cold sweat, thinking, "Was that bloodlust I just felt?" Beside him, Leon Conrad's shoulder burned and trembled. He weakly pushed himself up. I'm fine, Instructor." Instructor Panmax watched anxiously as Leon Conrad slowly got to his feet, blood dripping to the ground. He spoke with difficulty. "Please, start the match." "I will." Leon Conrad glared at Jack Drake, his whole body seething with rage. He hissed, "Finish off that lowly piece of trash." Jack Drake glanced at him with contempt. "Looks like you're the one who's too stupid to learn a lesson." Instructor Panmax started the match again. "Ready. Begin." Leon Conrad lunged toward him. His eyes are full of resentment. What's this about? These delusional thoughts. Is he scared because of that last punch? A jolt went through Leon Conrad's mind. He arrogantly thought, "If I'd been on guard, that would have been nothing. What I need to watch out for is his line of sight." Leon Conrad shifted his stance. His left hand is clenched tight. Jack Drake thought, "His left hand counter, just as I expected." As Leon approached, Jack Drake swung his left fist. Leon Conrad suddenly ducked low. He grabbed a weak point on Jack's leg and tried to throw him to the ground, laughing triumphantly. "Go down, you lowly mutt." Suddenly, Leon Conrad's face twisted in pain. All his senses seemed to skip a beat. He stumbled backward, away from Jack in disbelief. What just happened?" Instructor Panmax stared at Jack Drake in horror. Jack, however, paid no mind, just clicking his tongue in regret. "Tsk. Looks like that wasn't enough." Instructor Panmax's face went pale as he realized he'd seen everything. "You've got to be kidding me. Is this really the combat sense of a 12-year-old? He slowly replayed the fight in his mind. The moment Leon dodged Jack's counter and tried to throw him, I thought Leon was going to win. He continued his analysis. However, Jack punched Leon in the chin and escaped his grasp. That was Leon's mistake for letting his guard down. He assumed he had Jack caught, but Jack was too calm, even though his counterattack failed. The focus and precision required to land such an effective and accurate blow. Instructor Panmax had to look at Jack Drake in a completely new light. Is this really the Jack Drake I know? Leon Conrad was only now realizing how bruised and battered his face was. His head was ringing and spinning. He cursed inwardly. Damn it, I can't do anything like this. Leon Conrad thought, first, I need to create some distance. The next second, Jack Drake precisely kicked a weak point on his leg. The impact was so strong that Leon Conrad nearly lost his balance. As he stumbled, he panicked. Damn it, he's so small. How is he this strong? Leon Conrad struggled to control his twitching calf muscle. He muttered, this lowly piece of trash. He yelled, how dare you, and threw a punch. But Jack Drake's eyes glowed purple. To him, every movement now seemed to be in slow motion. He thought with glee, there it is. This time I can control the power. System notification activating class skill. Sensory ascension. Temporarily enhances all senses. Jack Drake fluently dodged Leon Conrad's attack. He stretched his body. Ah, this feeling is so familiar. He gathered power in his arm and thought smugly, now I'm used to controlling Igor. Jack Drake easily flipped Leon Conrad over his shoulder and slammed him to the ground. He decided, all right, I'll end this match now. Crash! Jack Drake delivered the final blow to Leon Conrad. The force was so terrifying that the ground cracked, sending dust flying everywhere. Instructor Panmax's limbs trembled as he whispered, what in the... Jack Drake pinned Leon Conrad down firmly. System notification activating skill. Precise strike. A skill that strikes an enemy's weak point to inflict damage. Critical hit. As the skill activated, Leon Conrad's spine and internal organs shattered with a sickening crack. Jack Drake raised his fist again, showing no signs of mercy. He said with glee, even an idiot like you should be able to... Leon Conrad gasped. Stop. Thud. Jack Drake landed another punch on Leon Conrad's cheek, who coughed up blood under the horrified gazes of the instructor and the other students. He continued, learn a lesson from this right. Jack Drake silently rose from Leon Conrad's motionless, shattered body. The air around him swirled with bloodlust. He said, just try me and you'll find out. Then he wiped his sweat-drenched hair from his forehead. In a satisfied tone, he said, breaking a little sweat really clears the head. He turned to the remaining hesitant students and said, now I can finally recognize who's here. Stop gawking! Jack Drake beckoned with his hand, provoking them all. If any of you have something to say, then come on down here. From the bewildered crowd, an auburn-haired boy burst out laughing and said loudly, Jack Drake, I Pancration choose you as my opponent, because as you said, I have something I want to say. He looked up. Jack immediately recognized him. It was another one of his cousins named Jack and Verdict. Jack quickly agreed, not forgetting to provoke him. He smirked a competitive look on his face and suggested, but just you alone would be boring. Liam Stone, why don't you join in too? I think that would make the fight a little more balanced. Jackin was fuming. He gritted his teeth, glaring daggers at Jack as he asked, did you just provoke me? Jack put on a provokingly innocent face and answered nonchalantly, I did, you idiot. Veins bulged on Jackin's face as he vowed to himself, Jack Drake, I'm going to beat you to death. The two sides entered the arena. Head Instructor Mac warned him sternly, don't do anything before I give the signal. Jack was thrilled to see Liam here again, the man known as the King of Mercenaries. Even in his past life as Jason's servant, Liam had attended the Cradle and the Academy, but because he was a distant relative, he was left behind in his education. He begged to participate in advanced studies at Valhalla Academy, but in the end he joined a knightly order of a small nation called Baron. And when Baron fell, he eventually became a mercenary. But in those chaotic times, people flocked to the strong, and after a long time as a mercenary, he became a Crimson Knight and established his own Stone Mercenary Corps. He unified the three largest mercenary guilds and was soon known as the King of Mercenaries. With the Stone Mercenary Corps, Liam participated in the Continental Great War, and Jack, along with the Northerners, faced him as an enemy. The shout to begin rang out. Fast as a flash of lightning, Jack closed in on his opponent while Jason stood still. He said slowly, word by word, I told you to come at me together, didn't I? Jason slapped his hand away, replying with a hateful look. Do you think I'd fall for one of your cheap tricks? As he spoke, he decisively threw a powerful kick, thinking he had a sure hit this time, but Jack had already predicted his move. So he raised his elbow to block. Pain shot through Jason's leg. He looked down at it, and as he looked back up, Drake had his fist raised in front of his face, ready to punch. He instinctively raised both hands to cover his face. Looks like you're a little too scared. You can't even see through a feint. That's why I told you to attack together. Jack Drake landed a decisive punch to his opponent's left side, causing him to spit up blood. Jason collapsed to his knees after just one hit. He screamed, "Liam, kill this bastard!" Liam said nothing, just quietly unwrapped his hand bandages. Even though he was mentally prepared, he was still a bit wary of such a strong opponent. He's 12, just like us, isn't he? The most annoying thing about fighting him is his incredible range. If I let him strike first, I won't be able to do anything. I have to seize the initiative. As soon as he thought it, he quickly activated his E-rank skill, Slash, unleashing a barrage of attacks on his opponent, obstructing their vision. The audience turned pale at this technique. They had never seen anything like it. This was a northern fighting technique from the Midlands, a place dominated by the sword. Though born in a land of great opportunity, his body was weak. Just that much is already making me ache all over. Facing Draker's continuous attack skill, the mercenary king simply stood his ground, taking every hit without attacking or dodging. That physique is the real problem. Unleashing those constant attacks has drained my stamina quickly. My body is about to reach its limit. He focused most of his strength into one arm for a decisive blow, but Liam easily tilted his head and dodged it. Drake gritted his teeth. I can't even see eager with my eyes. Everyone here has incredible senses. Jason took advantage of the opening while Draker was distracted, grabbing his wrist and trying to throw him down. But he escaped the hold with a knee to his face. Faction skill activated. Drake spun around, using his legs to choke Liam and lock his arm. He thought to himself, no matter how strong your body is, it's useless if your brain doesn't get enough oxygen. Unexpectedly, Liam's next action made him exclaim, "This crazy bastard!" Everyone waited nervously to see who the winner would be. Jason on the sideline smirked. Good. I expected at least this much from you. This is what makes you worthy of being taken down, Jack Draker. In Jack's private room, Decker's worried voice rang out. I heard you were seriously injured during the Pancration match. Are you all right, young master? If it's not too impudent, may I check your pulse? In reality, he wanted to check if I had awakened my aura yet. Jack held out his hand. The moment he touched it, a stream of blue light ran through his body. A blue knight. When checking if someone has awakened, they usually just check the core, but he's being incredibly thorough. Just transferring aura into another person's body is difficult enough, but to be able to control it with such precision, he must be a blue knight. Not all knights are the same. They are classified based on their martial power and proficiency in manipulating aura. The white swordsman is the basic level. Most children who haven't undergone the blessing ceremony are white swordsmen. The yellow swordsman is the level you reach when you awaken your aura and open your core. All students at the cradle will become yellow swordsmen after the blessing ceremony. Once you learn to control your aura at will, you receive the title of knight. The four-colored knight is the level at which you can reinforce your sword with aura. The blue knight is the level where you can manifest an aura blade, the realm of the transcendent. That's the limit of the mercenary King Liam, and the level Jack reached before his rebirth was Red Knight. There are also Black Knights, but there are only a few of those monsters on the entire continent. He kept wondering how someone strong enough to be a commander ended up becoming his caretaker, but that doesn't matter. There's no way he can detect my eager. Only 2 people in the world can use it. Decker released his hands and asked, Young master, is there something you're hiding from me? He looked into the man's eyes and asked, Why do you ask? So, are you hiding something from me? The atmosphere immediately fell silent. Jack waved his hand dismissively. Just kidding. He was about to leave. A question made him stop in his tracks. Why have you changed so suddenly, young master? He turned his head back, his gaze becoming sharp. Wrong question. You should be asking why it took me until now to change. Decker, many things are changing. From now on, everything will fall into its rightful place, so all you need to do is follow me. The attendant immediately bowed his head. Understood, young master. I understand. I have prepared the training room as you requested. Jack Drake waved his hand. Go get some rest. He may look relaxed on the outside, but his mind was filled with thoughts. If he was ordered to watch me, then I need to keep him close to get information from him instead. The problem is, who ordered him to follow me? I don't think it's someone from my mother's side. It must be one of my siblings. He stopped in front of a room. He peeked around. Inside, it was fully equipped with pristine training gear. Is this a personal training room? This family really lives up to its reputation. He sat down on the floor, opened the system, and checked his status window. Low-rank administrator, rare class healing mage. Title, blessed by the ancient dragon. Class skills, heal calm mind. Restore vitality, sensory enhancement. Current karma .0. His slashing skill had reached proficient, a skill activated naturally based on my actions. Jack thought to himself, so does that mean I had it before? If I learn something new, will it be added here as a skill? What's the difference between a skill and a class skill? They're activated similarly. And Dragonoid Arts is unviewable. Requires 10 points to unlock. The system displayed a hint about karma points. You can obtain karma points by killing monsters in dungeons. They're a dime a dozen, but I need to at least become a 4-color knight to even go there. Furthermore, he was more curious about why he'd regressed to the past and what this system, these skills and classes even were. It tells me that it's definitely related to that ancient treasure. But he had too little information. He lifted his sword. Whatever. As long as it helps me get stronger, I'll use it, whether it's this system I'm using or a family member. There are 2 known powers in the world, the aura of knights and the mana of mages. Knights strengthen the aura in their core while mages channel mana through magic circles. These 2 powers are polar opposites, so if you awaken one, you can't awaken the other. However, Draker was so unlucky that he couldn't awaken either a core or a magic circle. He was cast out by his family and met his master during his days of wandering. He taught him many things, but the most useful were healing and eager. Jack was able to use the energy of nature eager. His master and he were the only eager users in the world. He'd only been training for 2 hours, but he felt like he was about to pass out. He couldn't stand and had to lean on his sword to keep from falling. The system activated 2 class skills in succession, heal and restore vitality. Healing is a very rare skill. If he used it in front of everyone, they'd think he was a freak. That's why Drake couldn't use it during his match with Liam, despite being severely injured. In a short time, his body completely recovered, full of vitality. He continued to practice his swordsmanship until dinner time. The pristine room was now filled with slash marks. It looked completely ravaged. A week later, in the dining hall of the Cradle, the knights were whispering, "Have you heard about Jack? He's like a completely different person now. That failure, maybe he dabbled in black magic. Nonsense. I hope he put some of the stronger guys in their place." Yeah, that's right. In the hall, a table of 4 young masters sat apart from everyone else. It was Jason Verdek and his friends. Each of them had their own personal servant. Vena Terraan was eating with a look of disgust. Owen Jimin, while cutting his steak, said, "You need energy for the swordsmanship duel." Vena looked at him and asked, "Are you trying to provoke me?" Owen replied, "I'm just trying to be friendly." "But it seems your inferiority complex is pretty bad." Vena shot up irritably, slammed the table, and yelled, "What?" He knocked over the piece of meat Owen was cutting, making his face turn purple with rage. Jack Drake spoke up to defuse the situation. "So, what's everyone's plan?" Jack Drake. His Pancration match was barbaric but impressive. However, he'll be pathetic when it comes to swordsmanship. What can he possibly do when he can't even hold a sword properly? That's right, he's so weak he had to order a custom sword because the standard ones are too heavy for him. Exactly. There's no way I'd lose to that low-life bastard. I'm sure everyone who watched knows. He only beat me in that match because of pure luck. Vena left the table. If you really believe that, and then none of you have the right to become a knight of the Draker family. A sword duel isn't like Pancration. Real swords are used and they're the cause of most accidents in the Cradle. It's also where the skill gap between students is most apparent. And 1 month after the current exam, the blessing ceremony will be held, the event where the Draker family members awaken their aura. The head instructor signaled. Jack stepped forward. Jack entered the arena with a long sword on his shoulder. The crowd murmured, "What's with that ridiculously long sword? Does he think using a bigger sword will make him stronger?" His opponent was Terraan. He was radiating an aura like he wanted to eat Jack alive. He looked straight at him and said, "I choose you as my opponent." Jack lowered his sword. "Sounds good. I accept your challenge." Vina drew his sword. He's holding the sword and taking a stance so easily. Now that I'm facing him, I can tell. This isn't the Jack I knew. The guy who could barely even hold a sword. Is it because he's grown his aura? What am I saying? I can't let him intimidate me before the fight even starts. I accepted confidently, just like I always do. But fighting the Thunder Knight is pretty nerve-wracking. Vina Terraan was also known as the Thunder Knight. As one of the knights who made a name for herself in the Continental War, she is also recognized as one of the strongest of the Draker family's next generation. Since she was one of those who awakened their aura before the blessing ceremony, she must have awakened it several years ago at this point. But she didn't use it in the cradle, saying she wanted to improve her fundamentals. The signal to start the match rang out, and Zena quickly closed in on him. Every one of her sword strikes was masterful and decisive, temporarily forcing him to do nothing but retreat. She's better than I expected. A shout rang out from the stands. "Stop toying with him. Kill him in one blow, Zena." Jason was also watching. What an idiot. Does it look like Zena is toying with him? The match below was incredibly tense. Both sides were still at a stalemate with no further progress. It felt as if the space now only contained Jack Drake and Zena, despite being narrow. But he could still sense an opening. However, no matter how quickly he tried to take advantage of it, her sword would meet his own as if to praise his efforts. And right after that, another opening would appear. That's right. This is just like a training spar, meant to teach a lesson. After the direct confrontation, both had learned quite a bit about their opponent. So this is how the Thunder Knight fights back in the cradle. Her sword is so straightforward, just what you'd expect from someone obsessed with her fundamentals. But that's precisely what's holding her back. Let's see. Why not help her break out of her shell with that thought? Jack lowered himself into an extremely low offensive stance, intending to close the distance in a single blow. Zena had steeled herself. Her speed was nothing to scoff at either. Even though she was prepared, she didn't think Drake would be this fast. Faster than a leopard! Zena narrowed her eyes, focusing completely. As long as there was distance between them, reacting to his movements was impossible. He slashed at the ground. The arena floor shattered, sending 2 pieces of rock flying into Zena's face. She instinctively covered her face. By the time she moved her hands, his blade was already before her eyes. It seemed as though victory belonged to Jack. But no. Zena knocked Jack's sword into the air. The trainees gasped. Jack lost. As expected of Zena. She didn't even use her aura, just like always. Only Panmac understood what really happened. His face went pale. No. The students didn't realize it, but as Jack's attack approached Zena, she used the smallest possible amount of aura. It was such a tiny amount. It was almost undetectable. Zena, the one who promised never to use her aura until she officially entered the academy, he forced her to do it. But while Zena was distracted, Jack rushed in with a punch. What is he doing? It's not over. The punch was aimed straight at Zena's throat. Unable to dodge in time, she took the full hit. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The spectators were outraged. They pointed and jeered. This is a sword fight. We won't stand for such a cheap attack. That's right, a knight who throws away his sword. This is Zena's victory. You don't have the qualities to be a knight. How shameful. Jack ignored their judgments. He asked his opponent if she wanted to continue. Zena clutched her throat. I haven't lost yet. He only hit me because I let my guard down. If he hadn't used his bare hands but had a dagger, I might have. Zena said, I have lost. The audience's eyes widened at her words. Jack Drake, the one who just a few days ago was called a human trash, had achieved victory against one of the most talented children from the prestigious families. Loud cheers erupted. Jack Drake. That was Zena Terraan. The scene opens on a desolate landscape. The castle is in ruins, blood stains the streets, and wounded soldiers lie everywhere. There are also bodies covered with cloths piled up at the foot of the mountain. A black-haired knight with glasses asked anxiously, Aben, how can you be drinking tea in a situation like this? Jack, they said this bastard defeated Zena. Aben put down his teacup and said calmly, "William, you're always so serious. How long until the blessing ceremony?" "We have until the next full moon." "It seems now is a good time to visit home," Aben said as he walked toward the door. William was alarmed. "Are you planning to go there yourself?" Aben replied, "It has piqued my curiosity. I'm interested to know what kind of awakening our youngest has gone through." Although Jack's victory shocked the entire cradle, he simply returned to the facility and continued his training. 1 month later, on the day of the blessing ceremony, Jack was training so hard he was drenched in sweat. He brought a towel to his face to wipe it off. "I really don't understand how I became a knight in my past life with this body." Squeak. Open status window. The system screen opened. Skill precise thrust, rank E, proficient. Skill / rank E, rookie. Skill critical strike, rank D, veteran. Skill agile footwork, rank D, veteran. Just as I expected, one of his skill proficiency levels had surpassed the proficient level. The skill ranked up and the proficiency was reset. Drake had even managed to raise the proficiency of his footwork. Agile footwork, the skill he received during the battle. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. He called out, "Dick, what do you want?" A voice from outside replied, "We're leaving in 2 hours." "All right. I'll be there soon. Get everything ready." They traveled through the forest in horse-drawn carriages. Sitting in the carriage, he mused, "It's been a long time since I've been to the main residence. It belongs to the Dracker family and is located in the territory of the Duke of Choi. Although the main house is located in the center of the continent, at the Four Seasons Fortress in the Midlands, the blessing ceremony must be held at the main residence, the place where the legend of the Dragon Slayer began. Arriving in front of the residence, he stepped out of the carriage. The main residence of the Draker family, the Dragon's Den. The other young masters were already here. After gathering in the hall, they lined up in straight rows and stood at attention on command. Jack turned his head to look around. "I never realized this before, but all the guests are famous people you only hear about in the Continental Press. I'm sure the family has also sent people to gather information and watch me. Whatever their intentions are, once they see me fail to awaken, I'm sure they'll just ignore me." His gaze swept over someone. "My whole body is burning with rage. Why is that bastard here?" On the stage, 2 men are shaking hands. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" "Indeed. What reason could you have for being at this blessing ceremony? Has someone in this class caught your eye?" So the mysterious person was Aben. He smirked and said, "No, I have another reason. It just so happens that my adorable little brother is also here." As he spoke, he looked down below. Aben Draker, the second son of the Draker family, the Sword Lion. Aben's eyes locked onto Jack. "Ah, there he is." Just one look was enough to throw Jack's mind into chaos. The Sword Lion. No, the Butcher Knight Aben. He calmed himself down. "Get a grip. There's nothing I can do right now. In my past life, Aben never came to see me at the blessing ceremony. Have my actions changed the future? If so, this could be my chance." The ceremony began. The officiant called out the names one by one. First was Aaron. He stepped forward, rolled up his sleeve, and placed his hand into the basin of water. A sharp object pierced his palm, causing blood to flow endlessly. The pain spread quickly. Through the blessing ceremony, all members of the Draker lineage awaken the aura sealed within them when they graduate from the cradle at the age of 12. One by one, the others were called. Compared to ordinary knights who awaken after the age of 20, this is astonishingly fast. Among them, there are a few rare cases where, along with their aura, they also awaken a Dragon Slayer trait called aura suppression. When it was Zena's turn, the aura lamp suddenly malfunctioned, emitting a red light. They will, at a minimum, reach the level of a Golden Swordmaster. A few can even rival Crimson and Black Knights and undergo a True Blood awakening. Looking at Zena, Mac ordered, "Bring me the gloves." Because of aura suppression, all such individuals will be required to wear special gloves made by their family. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to live a normal life. When a person proves themselves to be a descendant of the True Blood, they are granted the Draker surname. Along with that, you receive unimaginable support from the family and countless privileges. When it was Jack's turn, the guests in the audience started to get excited. "Oh, looks like the main event is finally here. I wonder what kind of awakening he'll have." A True Blood awakening, of course. He defeated Zena after all. Jack walked to the basin extremely confident. I never thought I'd be standing in front of this damn statue again. Last time was absolutely horrible. Even though the blessing ceremony was the only thing that pushed me through the cradle, I received a disgraceful title. However, this time things are different. Not only can I heal, but I can also use ER. Above all, I didn't give up and surrender. I stood up on my own will. So, please help me out. Miss, you damn stat-giving statue. Just as the sword was about to strike down, as usual, it suddenly stopped. Everyone in the room was stunned. This had never happened before. Aben, standing above, also showed a look of boredom. Jack pulled his hand back. I shouldn't have expected things to change. Because of that bastard, I got overconfident. They murmured amongst themselves. What, his awakening failed? Is that even possible? But why? It seems the head's blood wasn't enough to suppress the cursed blood. Shh, be quiet. Then how did he beat Zena? He must have used some dirty trick. What a disgrace to the family. He looked at the noisy crowd with disgust. These people never change. It doesn't matter. There are many ways to get stronger besides through an awakening. Suddenly, the system appeared. I apologize, Jack Drake. Due to a processing error, a message has been delayed. Necessary information was found to be missing. From the identification system, during the class identification process, class information was input using system administrator privileges. Necessary information was found to be missing. Input class information is complete. The system has identified the user's talent as Healing Mage. Confirming your class has been unlocked. Class received. Has been identified as a rare class. A brilliant red light enveloped the statue once more. The entire hall buzzed with excitement. It's red, a true blood awakening. He's starting with red. As the system window continued to appear, the system has established a connection. The blessing of the ancient dragon sealed in the user's soul has been activated. The talent of the gladiator bloodline. Art has been awakened. Your awakened talents have combined. With the combination of rare talents, a new class has been created. Unique class Immortal. The entire hall was in an uproar. Murmurs echoed through the hall. A golden light. What is this? Is this a true blood awakening? There was some red light, so it must be right. Jack listened silently and thought, of course they're suspicious. But if I speak up here, it'll only cause me trouble. The guests kept whispering. But the aura lamp didn't show anything. So the sword statue is broken. There's no aura suppression. Then it can't be a true blood awakening. Aben clapped his hands twice, drawing everyone's attention. He smiled gently and said, why is everyone being so serious? We have 2 true blood awakenings in one batch. Isn't this something to celebrate? The crowd, now embarrassed, chimed in. That's right. 2 true blood awakenings. What a blessing. What are you waiting for? Bring the gloves for our newest member. Jack put on the gloves. They were a bit heavy for him. He glanced at Aben. His intentions are all too clear, but accepting Aben's help left a bad taste in my mouth. After all the young masters had finished their tests, the head instructor announced, this concludes the blessing ceremony. We will soon have a celebratory feast. It is for everyone, so please enjoy yourselves. Leaving the cheering crowd behind him, Jack walked straight towards the door. A stupid party. There must be a training room around here somewhere. Suddenly, someone called his name. It was Aben. He asked, the party's just started. Where are you wandering off to? Jack's annoyance was plain on his face. He's talking to me this quickly. Although Aben was smiling, his eyes weren't friendly. He spoke as he extended his hand. Congratulations on your true blood awakening. A handshake. If I refuse, I'll reveal my hostility towards him. For now, I'll just play along. He reluctantly reached out his hand, but remembering what happened in his past life, he unconsciously pulled it back. Aben Draker laughed with amusement. Well, this is awkward. Jack glared at him with hatred. Even to save face, I can't bring myself to shake hands with this piece of scum. Aben waved his hand and said, oh well, can't be helped. You'll just have to be satisfied with seeing my face. Clap, clap. Jack, see you around. Hearing that Jack got so angry, a vein popped on his face. During the party, they were still talking about the 2 new True Bloods. That's right, Jack's golden light was quite a surprise. This is the first time that's happened, isn't it? At first, I thought his awakening had failed. Where did he go? Jack Drake had returned to his room by now. He let out a sigh of relief as he took off the formal attire and gloves. Phew! I thought I was going to suffocate in that thing. Putting that aside, how am I unharmed? All True Blood awakenings come with spirit energy suppression. It's the ability that proves you're an enemy of dragons, the source of all spirit energy. However, since most machines use spirit energy as fuel, True Bloods are required to wear the family's gloves. He thought back. If I really am a True Blood, then there should have been a problem the moment I took off my gloves. Jack summoned the system window. It had been updated with a few new things. Class, Unique Immortal. Skills Continuous / Level D Novice. Critical Hit Level D Veteran. Agile Footwork Level D Veteran. Spirit Energy Reversal Level A Novice. Overall Physique Level A Novice. Current Karma Points 100. After reading, he pondered. This is completely different from before. Not Spirit Energy Suppression, but Spirit Energy Reversal. I should read this carefully. A skill that reverses spirit energy, creating a distortion field to nullify any nearby spirit energy. So Spirit Energy Reversal is classified as a skill. The Spirit Energy Lamp is unaffected because it's not a passive skill. Before the ceremony, Jack was a rare healing mage, but now he's a unique immortal. Jack Drake seemed to remember something. He started to connect the dots. Wait, all the graduates who had a normal awakening had a blue aura. Only Zena had a True Blood awakening. Mine was red at first too, but it turned golden. The system said the identification device was missing essential information. The identification device. Does it mean that bronze statue? As soon as the system input the information, the statue, which had paused, emitted a red light. Jack frantically scratched his head. He had figured out how the statue made its judgment. The bronze statue. It doesn't determine whether you awaken or not. It determines the user's characteristics and their class. Red is for a rare class, and golden is for a unique one. The bronze statue is an ancient artifact. It was used even before the time of Terraan, the founder of the Draker family. In that era, the concept of classes didn't exist, so it was only used to determine if a person had awakened or not. It's possible they mistakenly established that the red light, an indicator of a rare class, was the sign of a True Blood awakening, and no family head ever discovered this. He used 10 points to view the dragon skills. Level 1 Dragon Skills Dragon's Eye, Dragon's Might, and Devour. Among them, Devour allows the user to eat and digest a great deal. It requires 50 points to unlock. Too risky. He used 20 points to unlock Dragon's Eye and 30 points to unlock Dragon's Might. After activating them, he felt disappointed because nothing happened. He had expected more. It said detailed information, but nothing really changed. But Jack suddenly remembered. Wait a minute. He opened the door to his room, his expression slowly turning to one of fascination. The statue in the middle of the garden felt as if it were right in front of his eyes. The system displayed, "Do you want to receive detailed information about the detected object?" He pressed yes. A flood of information appeared. Decorative candlestick from Mai Tsine. Table made from Oliver wood. Chair made in the Leuven dynasty. Chest of drawers made in the Merg Empire. Draker family ceremonial robe. Carpet made in the Roman Empire. Whichever item his eyes landed on, the information would pop up just like that. Suddenly, his body shook uncontrollably, and he started to collapse. He sat down on a chair, his entire body feeling drained of energy. If all dragon skills are like this, I can't use them often. Faction skill activating. Self-heal vitality. Restoration has been activated. Jack was startled. What, I didn't intend to use healing. He read the system. Wait a minute. All faction skills have been converted into passive abilities, and their levels have increased by 1. Heal might be considered overpowered, but it's not something you can cast continuously, and its healing effect is limited. However, self-heal is infinite. I have to test this. With that thought, Jack picked up the fruit knife from the table and cut his hand. A stream of bright red blood flowed out. Just as he predicted, the self-heal skill activated automatically. The wound healed instantly. It takes 5 years to graduate from the academy, huh? 5 years. He smirked. I'll only need 2. Draker Academy, the greatest knight academy on the continent, where those who aspire to be knights are willing to pay a high price to enroll. The Duchy of Choi, where the academy is located, is brimming with vitality every new spring semester. Jack walked among the knights. Their gazes held a mix of envy and resentment. The upperclassmen were no different from adults trained to perfection. However, compared to those who came from the main family, They are still the children of great families. It seems they've already marked their territory. This family is rotten to the core. Among the countless branch families that support the transcendent Draker family, the three most influential are known as the three great families. They include Terraan of Strength, Jim of Wisdom, and Vardek of Gold. Even the children of those three families are in this state. He walked out of the crowd. Well, this has nothing to do with me. At the high-class dormitory, the Platinum Tower, a dorm with a training hall, a library, and all sorts of other facilities. It's reserved for high-ranking students, and even those from prestigious families can't get in easily. But for true-blooded awakeners, they're granted the privilege of being the master of an entire floor, known as the Platinum Floor. As Jack entered the tower's lobby, a servant bowed. "Welcome, Sir Jack Drake. We have been waiting for your arrival. We will escort you to your designated floor." In the hallway of the floor, dozens of servants were lined up on both sides. In unison, they said, "Welcome, young master." He felt a bit awkward. "Isn't this a bit much, even for a true blood?" An elderly servant spoke up. "Sir Decker is waiting for you in the room." Jack walked in and asked, "What is it, Decker?" He had a chest on the table and said, "It's tea. I have something to deliver to you." Seeing the item, Jack smiled with interest. "This is on a whole different level from the temporary gauntlets. I'm glad you like it." Jack proposed, "Now that I have new gauntlets, I'd like to get a new sword as well. What do you think, Decker?" He agreed. "An excellent choice, young master." Jack gazed into the distance. "Because the duchy's territory." The Choi region is near a giant mountain range. It has an abundance of high-quality iron and outstanding blacksmiths. So much so that many say the first weapon a student gets after graduation is just a common item. Hearing this, Decker quickly said, "In that case, I shall find a skilled blacksmith for you." Jack held up his sword and said, "No, there's no need. I've already picked someone." He handed him a piece of paper and smiled brightly. "I'll go in person. So please arrange an appointment." Decker unfolded the paper. "Ganiel Hanbeck. I've never heard of this name. I will contact them right away. Also, classes begin tomorrow, so please review the relevant materials beforehand." Alone in his room, Jack Drake sat in a chair reading the documents. With the Platinum Floor being completely isolated, I'll have more freedom to develop my dragon arts. Someone knocked on the door. "Come in," Jack said. The person who entered was the maid from the entrance. "Pardon me, floor master. Gina has sent a dinner invitation." Upon hearing her name, he accepted without a second thought. Entering Gina's place, he whistled. "Well, this is interesting. Looks like something out of a southern gang." Gina was already waiting. "Welcome, Jack Drake. My family is a bit unconventional, my apologies." She had invited him to dine in a spacious, open-air courtyard. As he sat down, he said, "Thank you for having me." Her bodyguard stepped away. As she ordered from the chef, he was surprised. A thunder night. A blue light was emanating from around her. She's optimizing her dantian to control her light ki. And she's already aiming for the title of Chromatic Knight. Then why has her swordsmanship hit a wall? He sighed. Such a waste of potential. After the meal, he was taken aback by the girl's appetite. It was probably 3 times what he ate. He thought to himself, and I consider myself a big eater, but this is way beyond my expectations. Gina gracefully wiped her mouth. "Now that we've finished eating, I'll get to the main point. Accept the support of the Terraan family, Jack Drake." He replied, "It seems you've forgotten, but we're both true-blooded awakeners." Gina explained, "It seems you misunderstand what it means to be a true-blooded awakener. It's true we receive many privileges. This Platinum Floor alone is proof of that. But we don't receive any benefits when it comes to our actual development. Think about the centuries of academic and practical knowledge accumulated in this academy or a personal instructor to effectively improve your abilities. Without these things, you will fall behind no matter how wealthy you are. That's why family support is essential, even Abendraker, a true blood like us." The youngest person to ever achieve the title of White Knight and the current Black Knight receives support from his maternal family, the He-Man clan. Although the head of the Terraan family didn't tell me why, he did tell me that you don't receive support from your maternal family. So I'll say it again. Accept the support of the Terraan family, Jack Drake. Her gaze grew even more earnest than before, but Jack just gave her an infuriatingly blank look and waved his hand dismissively. Jaina was stunned that he would refuse such a great offer. She asked, "Why accepting the Terraan family's support isn't a disadvantage for you?" Jack scoffed, stood up and turned to leave. "That's not the issue. I don't need anything more than what I've already received. As a true-blooded awakener, it's not much, but in return for the meal, I'll give you a piece of advice. Right now, there's too much brute force behind your sword. I'm guessing you're too conscious of them." Jack touched a tree, causing its leaves to flutter down around them. "Listen carefully, Jaina. Your greatest strength is the flexibility that comes from your agile body. Don't meet attacks head-on and try to crush your opponent with power. Instead, be fluid, deflect your opponent's attacks, and deliver a single refined strike. A precise one. If you can do that, you'll become many times stronger than you are now." Having said his piece, he thanked her again and walked away without a backward glance. Gina gritted her teeth and slammed her fist on the table, her mind racing. The Terraan family is the epitome of strength. I'm simply following our traditions. It's not because I care about what others think, but no, he's right. I've been obsessed with becoming someone worthy of the Terraan name. As a result, that obsession has unconsciously seeped into my swordsmanship. He saw right through it. When I was a child, everyone called me a genius, but no one ever gave me any real advice. She picked up a leaf. "Jack Drake, just who are you?" Meanwhile, as Jack walked back, he reflected on recent events. All of my faction's skills have changed. Their performance is insane. How am I perfectly fine after staying up all night training? In my past life, I thought this place was hell. But now that I'm a true awakener, it's become a paradise. A look of pure enjoyment spread across Jack's face. Money and power aren't everything. But there's nothing else quite like this. Suddenly, someone called his name from behind. He turned around to see Owen with a group of people. He asked, "So you're in the special class too?" Owen Hyman is one of the 3 young masters of the He-Man family. One of the 3 great families. Since Miyumo is the He-Man family's specialty, he used others to bully me, while cunningly maintaining his own image. Seeing no reply, he asked another question. "I invited you to dinner last night, but you didn't reply. Did you not receive the invitation?" Jack didn't rush to interrupt, just wondering why he was acting so friendly now. Jack brought a hand to his chin and smirked. "Oh, you mean that thing on my desk?" Owen's expression didn't change as he asked again. "Why didn't you answer?" Jack replied lightly. "Well, you're a funny one. Why should I have to answer, huh?" The moment he uttered those words, a large foot stomped hard on the ground. The guy laughed and rubbed his wrist threateningly. "You're so rude, even though the young master was being so kind." Jack Draker. Unlucky for that guy, he's notoriously stubborn. He asked, "And who is this?" Then sighed and started to walk away. "It seems like you guys from the cradle aren't worth much. I get that you want to show off for your young master, but remember who you're talking to." The other guy said nothing attacking with his aura, but Jack blocked it with one hand. It seems high-level students can manipulate basic aura. The big guy spread his arms and yelled, "My name is Durbin Rosegel. Around here they call me Durbin the Mighty. On behalf of young Master Owen, I'll teach you a lesson." Jack Draker, while using his aura, scoffed. "Durbin the Mighty, a student who isn't even a knight, has a title. Ridiculous." He rushed forward like the wind and punched him straight in the stomach, making the self-proclaimed mighty one spit blood and fly back 10 meters. Jack rolled his wrists. "After Durbin the Mighty, who's next?" "Hurry up and choose young Master Owen." Owen stepped forward and whispered in his ear, "You really like to bask in glory, don't you, Jack Draker?" After saying that, he pulled his lackeys away, leaving Jack bewildered. Drake Academy is mainly divided into 2 classes. There's the normal class, which teaches that if you lack talent, you must overcome it with effort, and so they follow a strict regimen, from early morning to late at night. And then there's the special class, where you can freely choose subjects beyond the basics, even in an academy where the greatest elites gather. This was the special class, so Jack had some expectations, but most of the people here were just former students of the cradle. "What kind of special class is this?" "A class for the cradle," the instructor on the podium said loudly. "Order to encourage the new students of the special class, we have a very special guest today. Not only is he a commander, the Eastern Empire War 25 years ago, but he is also the hero who stopped the Empire's invasion with his ingenuity alone. Please welcome General Hogwarts Draco." Hogwarts Draco is also the headmaster of this academy. He had silver hair and a gentle smile, raising his hand in greeting. It's a pleasure to meet you, gentlemen. The war hero Hogwarts Draco. They worshipped him as a war hero and a tactical genius. But the truth is, the information he leaked to the enemy for his own survival accidentally threw the enemy into chaos. He's just a lucky traitor. Jack was disgusted and didn't even bother to look at that rat. He's no hero. He was the mastermind who got me expelled from the academy. I lost the only place I had left to return to and ended up wandering throughout the Choi Duchy. In the end, I was captured by slave traders and sold to Cattell. In the south, I'll make him pay. After finishing his greeting, he left the classroom. The instructor continued the class. I trust you all have taken the headmaster's words to heart. Now we will begin the basic class immediately, so grab your swords and head to the arena. The whole class responded in unison, yes, sir. At the special class's indoor arena, they were gathered to learn. Jack wasn't very interested. Who would have thought that even the special class had to learn the basics of dragon slaying? In my past life, just because I couldn't use aura, I spent 2 years learning things that a person could have learned in 3 months. Another person was appointed to lead the class. He had blonde hair and introduced himself. Welcome, students. I am Andre Drake, and I will be teaching you the basics of dragon slaying. The students below were bewildered, whispering to each other. Who's that? He's so young. That's the official uniform of the Draker family. Only Jack knew. That was the Rose Knight Andre. Although he wasn't a pure-blooded awakened, he graduated early from Valhalla as the valedictorian, a rare genius in a century, and was granted the Draker surname. Even the teachers of the special class are on another level. He was also famous for his rigid and inflexible personality. Teacher Andre's face turned ashen, his eyes bloodshot as he uttered 2 words, "Be quiet." The entire class was scared out of their wits, not daring to make a single sound. He continued, "If you're done chatting, I will begin the class. Draw your swords." Everyone drew the slender swords from their hips. Only Jack drew a long, large sword from his back. "You there, what's with that sword?" Andre frowned slightly and called him up to the arena. "Student, don't you know you're supposed to choose a sword that suits your body?" Jack sighed. I knew this would happen, so I tried to make an impression when I drew my sword, but it was no use. He looked up and replied, "I can defeat you with this sword, sir. Better to just show him my skills." The teacher's face became as fearsome as before. Activate defensive school skill, Indomitable Spirit. Andre Drake gently drew his sword. "I understand, student. If you wish to learn with your body, if your sword touches my body even slightly, you will not only be excused for your rudeness, but also be exempt from this basic dragon slaying class. But it also comes from the Dragon Slayer class. Don't worry, I have no intention of using aura on a student." Jack was visibly delighted. "Oh ho, I get to skip class, I can beat Andre. Because I know his weakness, but with Aben watching, it would be dangerous to draw more attention like I did at the cradle. I'll just graze his clothes and then admit defeat." With that thought, he swung his sword quickly, but it was blocked by the teacher's blade, as expected of an Azure Knight. This won't be easy. Jack moved extremely fast, attacking from all angles, but Andre blocked them all easily. Moreover, he hadn't moved a single centimeter. The students below were in awe. An official Drake Knight is on a completely different level. It's been 30 minutes, and he hasn't even managed to graze his clothes. The sword in Jack's hand began to tremble. Both sides were getting tired, but Andre Drake gritted his teeth. What kind of absurd stamina is this? Even though I was suppressing my light energy, I can't believe I lost to a student. So this is the power of true blood. It's just not fair. Jack saw right through his weakness, his poor stamina, just as he expected. And suppressing his light energy like that is completely counterproductive to his family's light energy training method. The Drake method is famous for its peculiarity. You have to keep your light energy active during daily training, even while eating and sleeping. Basically, you have to maintain it like breathing. In other words, for Andre, it's like he's holding his breath. His awkward swordsmanship drains even more stamina. But losing like this still doesn't feel right. There's no other way. I have to force him to use his light energy. Creating an easy situation is pointless. I need something more. Something to make him use his light energy unconsciously. In other words, an extreme situation. Jack activates the skill Agile Footwork. Andre recognizes it immediately, but he never expected, how could a student use Agile Footwork? The moment the instructor let his guard down, Jack appeared behind him and activated a critical strike. Just as the sword was about to fall on his head, Andre unconsciously used the dragon-slaying arts to dodge. Chapter 1, Verse 1. Sky Render. Unable to dodge in time, he took the full force of the attack. His whole body was wounded. Damn it, that really hurts. His body activates the self-heal system skill. All right, now I can pass out, he thought, and pretended to faint. Andre Draker sheathed his sword and declared, "This student no longer needs to audit this class. Are there any other students who wish to be exempt?" The class was silent. "I'll take that as a no." Andre continued the class. "Now raise your swords." From this point on, the students would. Meanwhile, Jack Drake was taken to the infirmary and given proper first aid and bandages. Even though he was injured, he was thrilled. All things considered, it was a pretty good performance. Although I didn't even manage to graze his clothes, I made Andre use the light energy he said he wouldn't, and he acknowledged my abilities. In the end, Andre was taught a lesson, and I got some free time. A win-win. Andre's final attack was the most basic move of the dragon-slaying arts. Chapter 1, Verse 1. Sky Render. However, because it was unleashed by an Azure Knight, its power wasn't all that impressive. Even so, I was still able to defeat an Azure Knight, thanks to my infinite stamina and healing. But that's not enough to live freely without restrictions. I need to obtain unstoppable power, the kind of power that ensures I'll never have to yield to anyone. Just then, a strange voice pulled him back to reality. A long-haired drinking man was standing by his bed. He laughed and said, "So you're Arthur's youngest son. You have the same eyes as that arrogant bastard Arthur." Jack was startled. Who the hell is this guy? I couldn't detect him, even with that strong smell of alcohol. And besides, how dare he refer to the current head of the Drake family like that? He asked, "Who are you?" The man didn't answer directly, instead asking back, "How'd you do that earlier, kid, before taking a swig of alcohol?" His actions were clearly spontaneous. He asked again, "What do you mean by that?" The man put the bottle on the table, feigning ignorance. Earlier you sustained internal injuries. How did they heal so quickly?" He stared intently at him. Jack broke into a sweat, becoming more vigilant. Did he figure out my self-heal? The indomitable spirit mental defense skill has activated. No, I can't let it be exposed. No one in the academy knows about my healing. He denied it. The man pressed on. "So you're going to keep up the act?" Then he attacked with his bare hands. On reflex, Jack dodged the blow, threw the blanket in the man's face, and then activated a series of combat skills, the sword already in his hand. If I don't kill him, he'll kill me. The man easily caught the blade and praised him. "Your ability to adapt to the situation is impressive. Just like a mercenary." Jack's sword was stopped with ease. The man grinned as if to say. His two eyes suddenly glowed eerily as he continued, "A mercenary." At those words, Jack quickly leaped backward, vanishing from his spot in an instant. A hint of worry appeared on his face as he wondered, who in the world is this guy? A mercenary. And what worried him most was, does he know something about my past life? The man, still looking completely at ease, toyed with the sword and spoke up. A Drake letting go of his sword and backing away. After thinking for a moment, he raised a finger, looked at Jack, and said, "I think you're better suited to be a mercenary than a knight." That he was startled and thought to himself, so that's what that guy meant. I've never been like this. Ever since I met my master, I was sure after that first skirmish that there was a huge gap in power between us, so big that if he wanted to, he could easily kill me. He's at least an excellent knight. He then pointed straight at my face and asked, "That two-handed sword, it's a basic issue from the cradle, right? You have talent. So why are you using a piece of junk like that?" Jack exclaimed. "No, maybe even stronger." Just as the atmosphere was getting incredibly tense, someone suddenly entered from the door. The person spoke up, "So this is where you were." As soon as he saw the person in front of him, Jack was completely surprised, thinking to himself, "Andre, why is he?" Andre continued to look at Duke and said, "Dexter the gardener." Hearing that, he looked at the man, bewildered, and exclaimed, "He's the gardener, that guy." Duke then spoke up, "You damn leech, how did you know I was here?" Andre replied, "You were in the training room earlier." The man continued, "You're annoyingly sharp." Suddenly, Andre glanced at Jack and reminded him, "If your treatment is finished, you can leave now." The student quickly turned away and replied, "Yes, understood." Just as he reached for the doorknob, a loud voice called out, "Kid!" The one who spoke was none other than Duke. He continued, "If you have time, come to the greenhouse on the west side of the academy. I'll teach you something useful." This statement made Jack freeze on the spot, not understanding what was happening. After a moment of bewilderment, he headed straight out, refusing no thanks. Hearing this, Duke was so furious he was fuming, shouting, "Look at that mouth on you! That attitude is just like Arthur's." After closing the door, Jack smiled and thought to himself, "Dexter the gardener, huh? Who do you think you're fooling?" He recalled what the man had said earlier. "So, you're Arthur's youngest son." He thought to himself, if he's at a level where he can so casually say the name of the current head of the family, Arthur Drake, then he must be the one who only had one disciple, Andre, his entire life. An image of him appeared in Jack's mind. Duke Drake, the Whirlwind Knight, one of the Black Knights with enough martial power to single-handedly fight an entire kingdom. He was a hot topic when he suddenly disappeared one day. To think he's been hiding in the academy. Maybe that's why Andre came here. As Jack walked quietly, he thought, Duke is known to be a man of terrifying determination. There's even a rumor that he earned the title of Black Knight just because he likes the color black. That's just a silly rumor, right? Right now, Duke is showing a strong interest in me, but receiving ordinary instruction. Just because of simple interest isn't something I'm interested in learning. At this thought, an idea came to him. If I'm gonna learn something, I should at least learn his secret techniques. I'll turn that interest of his into determination. At the same time, inside the academy's main building, a person standing on the podium asked, "In a situation like this, do you students know what would happen?" He was Fan, the academy's professor of magical theory. In response to his question, the room was completely silent. All the students were dozing off. The professor asked again, "No, doesn't anyone know?" Seeing no one answer, he forced a laugh. "Ha ha, well, when forming the spirit formula." Just as he said that, a voice rang out, interrupting, "Due to the resistance, you would actually be injured." The one who had just spoken was Jack. He raised his hand and continued, I don't understand the law of spiritual energy flow that you mentioned earlier." Hearing this, the professor exclaimed in surprise, Jack called out again, "Professor!" The professor then replied, My apologies. This is the first time I've ever received a question about spiritual energy flow. To explain the concept, that's interesting. It's the way spirit particles." The discussion proceeded very smoothly, and in a flash, it was time for class to end. Everyone got up and started chatting amongst themselves. Why are we learning magical theory at a night academy anyway? It's basically nap time. But Jack didn't think that way at all. That was an easy-to-understand lecture. He's no ordinary professor. Just as he thought this, someone from behind him called out, wait a minute, Jack." The person calling was the professor. Surprised, he turned and asked, "What is it, Professor?" The man, panting, replied, It's nothing much." He smiled and continued, "It's just that it's been a long time since I felt like I've taught a proper class, thanks to you. So, if you have any questions, please come to my research lab anytime. I'm still a scholarship alumnus from Delphi Magic University, you know, so I know a lot of things." Hearing this, Jack was surprised, thinking to himself, I thought he wasn't an ordinary mage, but I never expected him to be an alumnus of the Magic University. Delphi, the nation where magic originated. At this thought, he replied, "I understand, Professor." Even though they were out of the classroom, the professor was still so enthusiastic. He smiled and thought to himself, getting close to a mage isn't a bad thing. Mages are good at math and are usually flexible thinkers. They make better colleagues than knights. Fan, huh? Let's see if he'll be useful. Just then Jack suddenly stopped, his eyes widening. In front of him, Duke was sprawled out on a bench, already waiting. He's more impatient than I thought. It's only been about a week, hasn't it? Duke glanced at him and asked, "You done, kid?" Jack started to say, "Why are you?" But before he could finish, the man shot up and demanded, "Why didn't you come to the greenhouse?" He continued, "You definitely understood what I meant by teach you something useful." Hearing this, he replied with a bored expression, "I already told you, I'm not interested." These words made Duke furious. He jumped up and yelled, "What, why?" Jack calmly replied, I know you're incredibly talented, but I'm busy with my personal training right now. The man laughed and added, of course, personal training can't be neglected. Just as he said that, Duke, who had appeared behind him at some point, asked, You think I'd say that? Sensing something was wrong, he quickly glanced back, but he was a step too slow. Without a word, the man raised his hand and struck him hard on the back of the neck. His vision went white as he was knocked unconscious. After a while, Jack finally came to. His eyes slowly fluttered open with a groan. Ugh. He stood up, clutching his head. I can't believe he knocked me out. Looks like waiting a week was too long for him. Thinking this, he looked around and wondered, so is this the Western greenhouse? Seeing Jack was awake, Duke put down the watering can and asked, You're up, kid. Jack looked at him warily and asked back, Did you kidnap me? But it's a deal. At that question, the man seemed excited as he moved closer to him and replied, That's right. I kidnapped you. Duke grinned and continued, I'm a little interested in you, kid. Hearing this, Jack remained silent, thinking to himself, he's not even trying to hide it now. He seems pretty impatient. Just as he thought that, he immediately used a skill from the system, activating skill Agile Footwork. As he dashed away with wind-splitting speed, he smirked and said, But now's not the time. However, before Jack could get far, Duke had already caught up, appearing right in front of him. Oh! Seeing this, he changed direction as fast as lightning. He leaped to the other side, but it was no more effective than before. A hand suddenly appeared right in front of his face. Jack stared at Duke in astonishment, thinking, He's still treating me like a joke. He thought to himself, I need something to light a fire under him. With that, he asked aloud, What is it about me that interests you so much? Duke immediately replied, I asked you how you healed your internal injuries so quickly. That sentence made him pause. The corner of his mouth lifted into a slight smile. So that's what's been bothering him, huh? He continued, If you're that curious, then make me answer. Suddenly, Duke vanished from his spot without a trace. Jack looked around in shock, thinking he's gone. He stood calmly wondering, where is he? Just as he thought that an unidentified object suddenly came flying towards him from behind at an incredible speed. Jack seemed to sense the approaching danger. His eyes widened as he glanced up immediately, dodging to the side and raising his hand to catch it. The object thrown at him was a sword. Luckily, he managed to block it in time, his feet sliding back from the powerful impact. Jack glanced back nervously and asked, What are you doing? Duke slowly approached and replied, You told me to make you answer, but that's too easy. Let's make a bet. He said, If you can even graze my clothes, I'll grant you one wish. Jack immediately raised his sword, thinking like master, like student. At that moment, Duke's expression became incredibly fearsome as he gave a sinister smile and continued, But if you give up during this fight, you'll have to tell me everything you're hiding. And so a fierce battle began in the western greenhouse of the academy. As the sun began to set, dust and sand filled the air inside. Visibility was extremely poor. Standing there, Duke clenched his fist, let out a sigh, and thought, What in the world is this kid made of? The scene before him was terrifyingly desolate and ruined. Everything was a mess. 3 hours had already passed. From behind a boulder, a hand reached up, gripping it tightly. He thought to himself, It's not just that his stamina and endurance are good. As he spoke, Duke watched Jack get back up in front of him. His stamina and wounds also recover without limit. An indescribable look of suspicion appeared in his eyes. That kid. Meanwhile, Jack's clothes were torn to shreds and his face was grim. The system panel suddenly appeared. Class Skill Self-Healing has been activated. Class Skill Endless Stamina has been activated. He glanced at the man, thinking, I can do this all day, but I can't win the bet. Dragon's Might. It seemed dangerous, so I've never used it before. Thinking this, he rushed forward, having made his decision. But against the Black Knight, it shouldn't be a problem. The look in both of their eyes suddenly changed. A murderous aura and a burst of power erupted. Bring it on! Seeing this, Duke broke into an amused smile and exclaimed, That look in your eyes! He laughed loudly in approval. Good. That's more like it. Jack stood perfectly still as a whirlwind kicked up around him, stirring up dust and sand. The system immediately displayed a notification. Skill Agile Footwork has been activated. And with that, he shot forward. He swung his sword wildly, but Duke was no amateur. He effortlessly dodged every attack. Watching the sword strikes come at him, he smirked and thought to himself, he's just repeating the same attacks. He might be fast, but compared to that leech and the Terraan girl, he's nothing. But this malice, his malice surpasses even his persistence. I'm so into this, he thought as he reached into his pants pocket. Maybe I should use a bit of light aura, huh? But before Duke could even do that, a terrifying golden gaze appeared right beside him, making him freeze. He immediately swung his hand, shattering Jack's sword into pieces. Duke's expression darkened as he thought, just now. Before he could finish his thought, a thick cloud of dust billowed up, obstructing his vision. Duke glanced around, wondering, is he trying to obstruct my view? But it'll be hard for him to find me. Just as that thought crossed his mind, Jack appeared right behind him with a sharp gaze. The system displayed a notification, Dragon Skill. Dragon Eye has been activated. However, as the sword drew near, Jack realized it instantly. He was startled to find that what he had just struck wasn't a person. It was just an afterimage. He had vanished from his original position without a trace. His movement speed was so fast, it kicked up a blinding cloud of dust. Jack, looking bewildered at the whirlwind circling him, exclaimed, is this Duke's secret technique? A simple dash that creates a strong gust of wind. Is this why he's called the Whirlwind Knight? But while he was lost in thought, Duke closed in right behind him and whispered. Startled, he swung his sword but hit nothing. Suddenly, he rushed in front of Jack with a punch, shouting, here's a firestorm for you, kid. The punch was thrown so fast, he couldn't react, and blood spewed from his mouth. His body flew backward and slammed hard. The system displayed a notification. Due to excessive skill usage, your exhaustion has surpassed the acceptable limit. Seeing this, Jack grinned and said, like master, like student, huh? The system continued to announce, for your safety, your consciousness will be forcibly shut down. Immediately, his vision blurred. Damn it! After a moment, he was unconscious. Jack's eyes finally fluttered open. Before him was a familiar room. He sat bolt upright, clutching his aching head. Jack tried to look again, thinking to himself, this is my room. Did Duke bring me back? Oi. Zal. Thinking this, he sighed in frustration. Damn it, I almost won. He flopped onto the bed, exclaiming, he really is the Black Knight. I think I did everything I possibly could right now. And it was useless. I tried to make Duke lower his guard by repeating my attack hundreds of times, and at the decisive moment created an opening with Dragon's Might. On top of that, I used Dragon Eye to attack him. But it still wasn't enough. The skill Duke used at the last second. That must be his secret technique. It's true I lost consciousness from overusing my dragon skills, but thanks to that, I got to see his secret technique. That absurdly high-speed movement technique he uses with his body, trained to the absolute limit. That secret technique must be what allowed Andre, who has poor physical strength, to reach the rank of Crimson Knight. Thinking about this, Jack felt a little disappointed. It's a shame I lost the chance to learn his secret technique, but it was still worth it. Dragon's Might has enough pressure to make even the Black Knight hesitate. Most small fry would pass out the moment they're exposed to this skill. Suddenly, at that moment, a notification window appeared in front of him, startling him. He glanced at it. The window read, you have one unread message. Confirm yes or no. Seeing this, he wondered, an unread message. The system continued to announce, D-rank skill flexible footwork has evolved into C-rank skill high-speed movement. Your soul has developed due to your strong display of will. Along with the development of your soul, your system functions have been activated. The next function can be activated using karma points. Jack's eyes glazed over. What? The system announced, minimap topographical and geographical features can be seen in the form of a map. Locked. 20 points to unlock. Inventory can store as many items as capacity allows. Locked. 20 points to unlock. Beginner's Quest Book. Contains guides and quests for the efficient development of a low-level administrator. Locked. 45 points to unlock. Current karma points 40. After reading through it all, he sat in deep thought. A whole bunch of stuff just popped up, based on the description aside from the inventory. Having thought it over, Jack didn't hesitate and directly pressed the Yes button on the system panel. Let's check the inventory first. A notification immediately appeared. If you select an item you want, it will be stored in the inventory. when taking a stored item out of the inventory. You can think of the item's name or shape. The amount of space an item occupies in the inventory depends on its size and weight. If you want a larger inventory, you can use karma points to increase its size. After hearing the explanation, he glanced to the side, wondering, "Select an item I want." He quickly walked over and picked up his shattered sword. I can activate skills by thinking about them, so putting an item into the inventory should be the same. Jack gripped the sword tightly, thinking repeatedly in his head, "Store, store, store." Immediately, the sword emitted a white light and slowly vanished. He looked at the inventory in front of him and thought. The two-handed sword disappeared and took up 2 of the 28 slots in the inventory. So, this is what the system meant when it said the amount of space an item occupies. Depends on its size and weight. To take it out, I need to think of its name or shape. Just as Jack thought, the sword appeared right in his hand. He grinned with delight and said, "I was thinking about a subspace inventory, but this is even better. That kind of treasure is obviously expensive, but it's also very hard to find a container for it. And I can even expand the inventory space using points." The notification window displayed, Status Window Low-Level Administrator. Name, Jack Drake. Class, Unique Undead. Title, Blessed by the Ancient Dragon. Functions of a low-level administrator. This ridiculously advantageous function is just from leveling up. What will it be like at higher tiers, he wondered, if the value of these points is this high? So I can't just use it recklessly. Looks like I'll have to change my plan. As Jack was lost in his tangled thoughts, a voice suddenly called out from outside the door, "May I come in, young master?" Hearing this, he thought to himself, of all the times, before replying, "Come in. What's the matter?" He replied, "There is a message for you, sir." With that, he took out a piece of paper and held it out to him, saying, "He said you would know who it's from if I mentioned Dexter the gardener." Hearing this, Jack understood immediately. The corner of his mouth curled into a smirk as he began to read the note inside. "Kid, if you want to challenge me again, come anytime." He thought to himself, so it wasn't a complete failure after all. Jack recalled what the man had said before. "Let's call it a draw, kid." He wondered, is this what he meant by a draw? His fist clenched as he exclaimed happily, "Either way, it means I still have a chance." Suddenly, Decker, standing nearby, spoke up. "I have one more thing to report, sir." He continued, "I have found the blacksmith you mentioned earlier." Hearing this, Jack exclaimed, "Oh, really? So when's the appointment?" He gently pushed up his glasses and replied, "There is a problem with that." Decker informed him, "The blacksmith has refused the appointment." Hearing this, Jack cried out in shock, "What? Why?" Meanwhile, at the blacksmith's forge, the room was incredibly dark, with weapons scattered everywhere. He spent his days drowning in alcohol. Decker explained, he doesn't forge weapons anymore. Early the next morning, a foot stepped down from a carriage. Jack had arrived in front of the blacksmith's house. He thought to himself, it's been a while. The sign above read, Pubnir's Breath. He let out a weary chuckle. Ha ha, what a prestigious name for a forge. With that, Jack slowly pushed the door open and called out, "Is anyone here?" From what I remember the Aura sword, it was a masterpiece forged by Galleon. He said it was the culmination of his life's research. He truly deserves the title of Soul Blacksmith. He's known for reading a warrior's soul before forging their weapon, and he lives up to that reputation. He created a sword with the exact ability I need most. The power to substitute aura with ether. The greatest blacksmith on the continent forged that sword. Thinking of this, Jack looked over at the man completely drunk and wondered, what on earth happened to him? Sensing a presence, he looked over at Jack in confusion and asked, "What's this?" "A kid, this is no place for brats. Get out." This was the soul blacksmith, Galen Hanbayek. Jack ignored him, glancing around at the mess. He thought to himself, I know he's an emotional guy, but I've never seen him this bad. What on earth happened to him before I got here? Without hesitation, Jack grabbed a large bucket of cold water and splashed it right in Hanbek's face. Finished, Jack tossed the clattering bucket aside. He stepped forward with a smile and asked, "Are you awake now?" He continued, "I want to know why you refused my request." After a dazed moment, Hanbek finally noticed the crest on Jack's glove. He stammered, trembling, "D. Drake." Hanbek bowed his head and said loudly, I apologize for being so disrespectful." His entire body trembled as he continued, "Please forgive my insolence, but I'm not accepting any requests at the moment." How can a wretch like me create something that someone desires, when I can't even make the things I want to make? Hearing this, Jack began to understand. So even Galeon went through a phase like this. Come to think of it, he was already the continent's greatest blacksmith when I met him, and Galeon never told me about his life before then. Hanbek sat with his head in his hands, moaning, "Why am I so useless? Can I even forge weapons anymore?" His whole body trembled. "A blacksmith who can't forge," Jack shouted, "Galeon Hanbek." Startled, he snapped to attention and replied, "Please forgive me for this shameful behavior in front of you." Jack interrupted, "Don't worry about it. I want to see some of your failures." Hanbek quickly replied, Let me lead you to the back." Jack thought to himself, there's no other way. I'll have to guide him onto the right path myself. A moment later, the two of them were in the backyard. Hanbek spoke up. "I apologize, sir. I shouldn't have let things get so messy." Jack replied, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." He looked at the pile of weapons before them and continued, "They're quite fascinating, I must say." Hearing this, Hanbek replied, "Thank you, sir." Jack then continued to walk forward. Seeing Jack pick up a sword to inspect it, Hanbek warned him anxiously, "Sir, please be careful, even though they're failures. They're still incredibly sharp." Ignoring the warning, Jack inspected sword after sword. "This one, and this one. No, not just these. These aren't failures. Their quality is on par with the weapons he forged when he was hailed as the continent's greatest blacksmith." A system notification appeared. "Dragon Skill Dragon's Eye has been activated." He exclaimed, "Just as I thought." He then asked aloud, "There's a problem with your furnace, isn't there?" Hearing this, Hanbek was completely stunned and asked, "How did you know?" Jack replied, "I'm asking you. You've optimized your own smithing style, haven't you?" Jack continued, "It seems you've mixed several metals to create a lighter, more refined material." As he said this, he swung the sword. With just a little force, the sword immediately shattered. He spoke, "But the durability is terrible in situations like this. It's because the impurities weren't properly removed during the heat treatment." Hanbek looked at Jack, thinking to himself, "So precise. He didn't just recognize my method. He even analyzed the critical flaw and its cause. If it's him, perhaps." Thinking this, he spoke up, "Sir, this is a bit unexpected," he continued, "but I have a favor to ask you." A moment later, inside the house, Jack walked over and asked, "What is it?" Hanbek replied, "Could you take a look at this first?" Without another word, he placed a large scroll on the table and unrolled it. Jack also came closer, observing thoughtfully. He thought to himself, "This is Ganion's secret." The thing he revealed years later, the blueprint for a magic furnace. He recalled what Hanbek had once said, "What's there to hide from the man who saved my life? A furnace whose temperature can be freely adjusted with magic. This is my secret." Thinking this, he smiled and said, "With this, your smithing method will work perfectly." Hanbek happily added, "Of course, I knew you would recognize it right away, sir." Jack asked, "You have the complete blueprint, so why haven't you built it?" Hanbek thought for a moment, then replied, "The blueprint for the most important part, the energy aura principle, is there. But the implementation cost from the magic tower is 10,000 gold. Hearing this, Jack thought, a normal family of 4 has monthly living expenses of 10 gold. That means it's 1,000 times that amount, so it took him 15 years to save up that much money. Hanbek continued, "That price is absurd. That's why I want to ask you a favor. You're a Draker, and a true blood awakened one at that. So if you could create this furnace for me, I will fulfill any of your requests free of charge and unconditionally until my last breath." Hearing this, he thought, "This is difficult. It would be possible if I were a guardian knight of the family. But it's impossible for me, even as a true blood, to get support for 10,000 gold. But I can't give up on Graham, the aura sword, either. His problem is the energy aura principle." Just as he thought that, an idea suddenly struck Jack. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Wait!" He cracked a smile and wondered to himself, "The energy aura principle, you say?" Without further hesitation, he slowly rolled up the blueprint and said, "All right, I accept." Hanbek asked, confused, "Really, sir?" Jack replied, "I can ask a mage I know. Once I have an answer, I'll let you know immediately." Before leaving, he didn't forget to add, "Oh, and stop drinking." But before he could finish his sentence, Hanbek had already stepped forward and dropped to his knees. Tears and snot streaming down his face, he sobbed, "Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank you. This Ganian will serve you for the rest of his life as my savior." Loud voices echoed from inside the house. Thank you, sir." "Good grief, I get it." "Stop it. I'll let you know when it's done." A while later at the Draker Academy in the professor's research building area, Jack walked along thinking, why do those bastards at the Magic Tower charge such a high implementation fee? The structure looks so simple too. Professor Fan's specialty is the energy aura design principle, his research lab. Just as he thought of this, his entire body suddenly froze in place. An ominous feeling surfaced in his mind. His sharp gaze darted to the side. Right next to Jack was a dark alley. He thought, in that alley. A terrible memory suddenly flooded his mind. The past, Jack was dragged into the alley by a group of people and beaten. He had to kneel on the ground and beg them. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Please." But the others had no intention of letting him go. One of them, his face furious, yelled, "What did you say?" Jack, sobbing, said, "I apologize, sir. Rash, this lowly wretch. I dared to touch your body." Hearing that, he immediately stomped his foot hard on Jack's head, praising him. "Good. Well said, Jack." He gave a contemptuous smile and continued, "As a reward, I'll give you the chance to clean the ground you've dirtied." At those words, he couldn't fight back at all. He could only kneel on the ground and stammer, "Thank you, sir." Back in the present, Jack could no longer tolerate this injustice. He slowly walked towards the alley, cursing, "Damn it." At the same time, from inside the alley, the continuous sounds of curses and a brutal beating echoed. "Vermin like you are just an obstacle to others' existence." Rash, panting heavily, continued, "That worthless son of a bitch is the same. An unprecedented golden light reaction. A true blood awakening that surpasses all others." The more he thought about it, the angrier he got, continuously stomping hard on the vermin. He cursed, "Damn it, losing to that lowly son of a bitch was unavoidable because of that surprise attack of his before the match began. But why did that worthless piece of trash who got lucky and beat me get to become a true blood awakened?" Just as he said that, a figure suddenly approached from behind and spoke up. "Hey, Pockface." Jack smiled and continued, "Found someone to take my place already, huh?" At this, his smile slowly vanished. His face darkened. He pointed straight at him and warned, "I'm giving all of you 3 seconds. If you know what's good for you, get your heads on the ground. Now." Hearing this familiar voice, Rash slowly approached and asked, What? He tried to act calm, pointing at Jack and continuing, "Your arrogance has gone through the roof ever since you became a true blood awakened." "Jack Drake, are you sure you've really—" Before he could finish, Jack cut him off directly. "Shut up." Killing intent swirled in his eyes as he said coldly, "If you don't bow your head, don't blame me for what happens next." Hearing that Rash was terrified, his face went pale as he stumbled backward. He was sweating bullets, thinking, this pressure. Just a few months ago, he was crawling between my legs, and now I'm scared of him. He felt his pride being trampled on. Gritting his teeth, he roared, "How dare you give me orders, you worthless son of a bitch!" As soon as he finished, Conrad charged straight at Jack. "What are you doing? Get him!" Watching them charge at him like madmen, he remained calm and stood his ground, asking, "Don't you dare blame me for this. You hear?" Just as he said that, Jack quickly tilted his head to the side, dodging the blow. While the other guy was still trying to figure out what happened, a lightning-fast punch shot straight towards his face. He landed a devastating blow, sending the guy flying backward. The others hesitated for a second when they saw that, but it was too late to stop. Jack unleashed a flurry of punches, taking them down one by one, knocking their teeth out. It seemed like among these guys, none of them were any match for him. He could take them all down with ease. Jack tossed them aside like a pile of trash without a shred of mercy. He used his knees, then his kicks, taking down each one of them. Every move he made was incredibly swift with 0 openings. And finally, the last one was beaten to the ground. Having witnessed the whole scene, Conrad was scared stiff, breaking out in a cold sweat. He stood there stunned, looking at his goons. Not a single one of them was left standing. He uttered, "No way." He kept asking himself, is this son of a bitch really the Jack Drake I know? Jack then walked towards him and reassured him, "No need to be scared. I'm sure you already know it'll only hurt for a month." In a desperate move, Conrad drew his sword. Trembling, he pointed it at Jack and yelled, "Stay! Stay away. I'll cut you down if you get any closer." Hearing this, Jack replied coldly, "You're really drawing your sword outside the training grounds. You know what that means, don't you?" Those words made him freeze, his eyes filled with fear. Jack reached for the sword on his back and continued, "To face the killing intent of Leon Conrad, who has drawn his sword outside the sacred training grounds." Hearing that, he cried out in fear, "Wait, wait, wait!" But Jack had no intention of stopping. A murderous look filled his face as he growled, "I, Jack Drake, will respond in the name of honor." Faced with Jack's solemn words, he was scared witless. This next battle will end. When one of us is dead, all responsibility lies with ourselves, and our opponent bears no liability for the outcome. Just as he said this, he looked at the guy on the ground and continued, "Liam Stone, you are the witness." Wasting no more time, Jack began to raise his sword. "Now, let's continue." Seeing the dead, serious look in his eyes, Conrad panicked and begged, I'm sorry." He was so scared he pissed his pants kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. "Lord Jack Drake, please, please let me live." His whole body was shaking uncontrollably. "Please spare me." Hearing this, Jack slowly lowered his sword. He remembered his own past self. He had been just like that before. I'm sorry, Lord Leon Conrad. Please spare my life." The more he remembered, the more his blood boiled. "You stupid son of a bitch." Immediately after a flash of his sword, he swung straight at Conrad's face. Jack took one of his ears clean off. He sheathed his sword and said, "I'll take your ear as payment." Hearing this, he clutched his head, screaming in pain. My ear." Jack walked over, placed a hand on his head, and warned, "If that ear is reattached by the time we meet again, the next thing I take won't be an ear." Jack gripped his hair tightly and growled, "It'll be your head." With that, he slammed Conrad's head into the ground. Then he let out a sigh of relief and stood up. "Phew!" Liam Stone watched Jack's retreating figure and called out, "Jack!" Jack stopped. He continued to ask, "Why? Why did you help me?" To that question, Jack answered bluntly, "Don't overthink it." He smiled and added, "I didn't help you." As he said this, he turned and walked away, thinking, "I was helping myself." Jack scratched his head and sighed, wondering, is Ganleon's influence affecting me? I almost said something really embarrassing. Back at the academy in Professor Fan's research lab, a voice came from inside. "Is it feasible?" Professor Fan looked at the blueprint Jack had brought and answered, "Let me be frank. You could say it's feasible." Jack followed up, "Really? Then I'd like to entrust it to you, Professor." Fan adjusted his glasses slightly and replied, "Hold on. I think it would be better if you heard my explanation first." They both looked at the blueprint. He continued, "As you said, the overall structure is simple. However, the problem is the core, which is responsible for the energy output. The core is considered the heart of this machine. But the circuitry path has some extremely tricky limitations. Although it may be small, it requires a sufficient amount of power and will also need a way to regulate the output." Without any delay, Professor Fan exclaimed, "This is unprecedented." Jack asked again, "But is it feasible?" He answered, "Yes, there are two options based on the core's condition. I could personally adjust your design, however, it would take at least a decade to revise the design for the core." "No, it would take 15 years. Hearing that, Jack shouted in horror, 10 to 15 years. Professor Fan replied, "Yes, it would consume a considerable amount of time. As for the second method, we could bypass the core design and use a similar material, but even if we do that, while it would save a lot of time, the required material is a high-density spirit stone." This answer left Jack in disbelief. He asked again, "What model? Isn't that an ancient artifact that can't be created with modern technology?" He replied, "Exactly. Ancient artifacts are already rare. However, finding an artifact in the ruins is even harder. To find a spirit stone that can withstand our design, it would cost over 3,000 gold." These words shattered Jack's hopes. With a dazed look, he thought dejectedly, "I could be kicked out if anyone finds out I can't use aura. But 15 years is too long, and 3,000 gold is unbelievably high. I can't give up on Graham the Aura Sword. Most people think I'm an aura user." 1. Thanks to what happened during the blessing ceremony, but it was just a reaction created by healing and Egger. The fact that I can't use aura hasn't changed. Eager is considered a power that's difficult for humans to control. However, aside from the primal spirit consciousness skill my master taught me, I can't use any sword skills that utilize aura. Even with that skill, I can only strengthen and swing my whole body. Compared to others, aura is much easier to use and more versatile. That's why I need Graham the aura sword. At this thought, Jack clutched his head and sighed. Damn it. How am I supposed to find a high-density spirit stone? Suddenly, Fanong spoke up. By the way, the person who created these blueprints is extraordinary. Even considering the complex core, it's a superior design. He continued, it would be difficult to forge even among the Golden Age artifacts. Hearing this, an idea struck Jack. He froze and exclaimed, a Golden Age artifact. The corners of his mouth curled into a slight smile. Why didn't I think of that sooner? Without wasting another moment. Jack slowly stood up to leave. Please keep the design safe until I return, Professor. Hearing this, a confused Fanong asked, what do you mean? Do you want me to spend 15 years perfecting it? He laughed and replied, ha ha ha, of course not. He tightened his grip on his sword and continued, I'll bring one back. Jack's face was full of confidence. I mean a high-density spirit stone. The Golden Age. The War of Liberation fought to escape the dragon's rule ended with the defeat of the evil dragon Bahamut by Terraan Draker. This brought humanity a century of peace. During that time, many ancient artifacts were discovered in the dragon's lair. They were relics from the era of the Hero King, the pinnacle of magic. All the discovered artifacts possessed techniques and magic that far surpassed modern standards. Among them were high-density spirit stones containing enough essential spirit energy to sustain an entire village, an artifact from the era of the Hero King. Scene change, Draker Academy Central Library. Although rarely used, the Central Library is still maintained because it's believed to have been personally established by Terraan. During an expansion of the Records Room, Golden Age artifacts were discovered. This led to the involvement of the Magic Tower and the Archmage Nirvana. A member of the three great families in the excavation efforts during those months, countless Golden Age artifacts were discovered and news of it spread through the continental press. Or, at least, that's what will happen in 15 years. In the Central Library's records room, Jack was also present. He looked around thinking, no one has discovered the artifacts yet or is even aware of them. At this, he sighed in frustration. I could search all day and still not find anything. The system displayed a notification. Dragon Skill Dragon's Eye has been activated. One of Jack's eyes began to glow. He didn't give up and continued to walk around the library searching. As he was walking, he suddenly noticed something. He froze, his eyes widening. On the floor! A single tile was emitting a faint red light. Jack exclaimed, this is it. He walked over and knocked on it, thinking, it should sound hollow when I tap it. That's it. He quickly used the primal spirit consciousness skill, Egger Application, Cut. The only application for the primal spirit consciousness skill I learned from my master, since Eager materializes the user's will applying certain properties like cut. And using it in various situations is possible. However, it has a limitation. The user must consume a large amount of Eager to perform any action. Just as he thought that his head throbbed with pain, it seems using it is still too much for me. After a while, the tile finally opened slowly. Jack immediately climbed down below. He carefully closed the lid, the tiled floor, looking as if nothing had happened. Below it was extremely dark and damp. Jack had to take out a torch and light it. He looked around and said aloud, the papers didn't say it was this deep. Just as he said that, a sudden noise echoed, making him jump in fear. Right beside him, two figures were faintly walking. He was surprised, thinking it should be at least another decade before anyone discovers these ruins. Jack risked a peek, wondering, could it be? Did someone else find it first? But the sight that met his eyes? Yeah, it wasn't human, but two moving skeletons. He exclaimed, skeletons, they're holding a pickaxe and a shovel. All right. Looks like they weren't created by a spirit. Jack immediately took out the sword from his inventory. If that's the case. The system then displayed a notification. Skill critical hit has been activated. His figure flashed forward like lightning, striking the skeletons and shattering them. Well, this should be easy. He dealt with them just like that without any difficulty. After everything was resolved, the system displayed a message. For defeating 2 skeletons, you have received 2 karma points. Skeletons defeated 2. Current karma points 2. Hearing this, Jack burst out laughing with joy. Ah, right. I can get points from killing monsters. I was so focused on the treasure that I completely forgot. Thinking this, he became incredibly excited. Wait a minute. Isn't this a great opportunity to farm points? Without hesitating, Jack immediately gripped his sword, dashed off, and shouted, "Here I come, my beloved points." And just like that, one skeleton after another was defeated. The system would then display, for defeating 1 skeleton, you have received 1 karma point. Skeletons defeated 20. He smiled and said, "Too easy." The system continued to announce, current karma points 22. Status window, low-level administrator, name, Jack Drake. Class, unique immortal. Title, blessed by the ancient dragon. System functions, inventory. 25 slots, minimap locked. Requires 20 points to unlock. Quest log, beginner. Locked. Requires 45 points to unlock. Skill trees, self-heal, composure. Vigor, recovery senses. To upgrade skills, precise thrust, rank E, proficient combo, / rank D, novice. Critical hit rank, D, veteran, agile footwork rank, D, veteran, mana counter rank, A, novice, overall perception rank, A, novice, dragonian, arts level 1, dragon's eye, novice. Dragon's fear, novice, devour locked. Requires 50 points to unlock. Dragonian arts level 2, unviewable. Requires 50 points to unlock. Current karma, points 40. Seeing this, he thought to himself, I should take a closer look just in case I find something I can use my points on. The beginner quest log is 45 and the minimap is 20. The Dragonian art Devour and the locked level 2 skill both require 50 points. Looks like the only thing I can buy right now is the minimap. Minimap function has been activated. In front of Jack, a map appeared, even showing his current location. He observed it for a moment and exclaimed with admiration, it's similar to a magic map. He then reached out and pressed a button on the edge, wondering, what's this? The system then displayed, minimap has been switched from 2D to 3D. Seeing this, Jack was thrilled and said with a laugh, awesome, this is exactly what I wanted. His eyes were drawn to a room that was emitting a red light. But why is only that room a different color? The system displayed, would you like directions? To the selected location, Dragon Slayer's tomb. Storage room, yes or no. Hearing this, he thought, a storage room, huh? Without hesitation, he reached out and pressed the yes button. It took the search party days to find this place. And yet I found its location so easily. We will now provide the fastest route to your designated location. Jack looked at the detailed directions and laughed out loud. Ha ha, this is unbelievable. With this, how could I possibly get lost? And so, after moving for a while, he finally stood before a large door. The system announced, you have arrived at the designated location. He looked around and said, I guess I'm here, but how do I get inside this place? As he touched the door, he continued, it seems like just pushing it won't open it. Just as he said that, a strange red light suddenly emanated from above the door where his hand was touching. Not only that, it also carried a massive surge of electricity that knocked Jack's hand back. He thought in astonishment, a security spell is the reason the magic tower and the great archmage Nirvana are connected. And it must be because of this door. Jack looked at his smoking hand, feeling lucky. If it weren't for these gloves, I would have lost my hand. I won't be able to get past this spell. System, can't you open it for me? Hearing this, the system replied, we have received the administrator's request. We will now connect to the security device. The security spell has been disabled. Automatic device activation was unsuccessful. We will now switch to manual device activation. He exclaimed, what? Jack asked in shock. Wait, are you responding to what I just said? The system replied, yes, I am. Do you have any further requests? Administrator Jack Drake. Hearing that, he stood stunned for a moment. I can talk to the system. He continued to ask, if so, then why was I forced to reincarnate? The system replied, I cannot answer the stated question. Jack asked again, what is this administrator system? The system replied, I cannot answer the stated question. He still didn't want to stop asking repeatedly, who created you? The system replied, I cannot answer the question. Do you have any further requests? Administrator Jack Drake. Jack, frustrated, held his head and sighed, thinking, damn it, I'm not getting any answers to the important questions. With that thought, he said, just open the door. The system replied, we have confirmed the administrator's request. The Dragon Slayer's tomb, storage room has been opened. And with that, the massive door slowly swung open. He stepped inside, looked around, and exclaimed, whoa! All of this? He couldn't believe his eyes, shouting, are these treasure chests? A treasure chest, as the name suggests, is a chest filled with valuable artifacts and treasures. Just finding one of them could already be considered a miracle. Without further hesitation, he reached out and opened a treasure box. From inside, a brilliant, dazzling golden light shone out. Haha, so there are hundreds of these things. One by one, the treasure chests were quickly cleaned out. I'll take this one. Oh, this one looks pretty good. I'll give this to Fan. He grinned and exclaimed, finally found it. Inside a small wooden box were 4 condensed spirit stones. High-density condensed spirit stones, and 4 of them at that. Even better, Jack happily stored them all in his inventory. I'll use 1 point to expand my inventory by 4 slots. I still don't have enough space for everything. Looks like I'll have to come back often until I graduate. After taking everything he needed, he slowly stood up to leave. This should be enough for today. However, before he could even act on that thought, a strange aura washed over him, sending a chill down his spine. He anxiously glanced around but couldn't sense anyone else's presence. Jack thought to himself, what is this creepy feeling? Suddenly, his arm accidentally brushed against the stone wall beside him. A red light flared from the point of contact. Sensing something was wrong, he startled and pulled his hand back. But it was too late. A series of sigils appeared surrounding him. He asked in shock, What is this? Before Jack could finish his sentence, he vanished on the spot, leaving no trace behind. After a moment of transit, Jack appeared in a completely unfamiliar place, somewhere he had never been before. He looked around bewildered and asked the system, where is this? The surroundings were frighteningly gloomy. The system appeared and replied, the administrator is currently in the Dragon Slayer's sanctuary. Hearing this, he glanced up and continued, the Dragon Slayer's sanctuary. The report didn't say anything about a room full of chests. Jack opened his mini-map to observe. With a thoughtful expression, he mused, just as I thought. It's not too far from my previous location, but there's no path leading to the sanctuary of the Dragon Slayer. If that's the case, this must be an undiscovered location from my past life. Without delay, he reached out and pushed open a chest right in front of him. I can't just pass this up. As the chest lid opened, it revealed a strange set of armor lying neatly inside. Jack exclaimed, a suit of armor. The system then displayed a notification. Exclusive Dragon Slayer equipment has been discovered. Hearing this, his curiosity piqued. He stood the armor up to get a better look. He studied it carefully, saying, exclusive Dragon Slayer equipment. It definitely doesn't look like any of the Golden Age armors that I know of. What is this? Jack focused on the back of the armor's neck, wondering, a slot for something. Suddenly, he froze, his eyes widening as an idea struck him. Could it be? Unable to wait any longer, he immediately took out a condensed spirit stone. But I can't just leave it like this, can I? The system displayed a notification. Spirit battery has been installed into the exclusive Dragon Slayer equipment. Activating equipment. As the notification faded, the armor's eyes suddenly glowed brightly as if it had a soul. Seeing this, Jack grew even more curious, wanting to discover what was hidden inside that armor. Suddenly, the armor began to shake violently, leaving him completely baffled. He cried out in alarm, What's happening? Just as he said that, a loud explosion erupted. Dust and smoke filled the air. System notification, equipment malfunction due to overload. Activation failed. A small explosion is expected shortly. Please evacuate immediately. Hearing this, Jack, now covered in soot, sat down on the ground in frustration and replied, It already exploded. The system then offered its apologies. He slowly got back up. Looking at the smoldering armor, he wondered, so a high-density condensed spirit stone is just a power source for this armor. That made him ponder, just what kind of functions does it have to require such a massive power source? I'll ask Fan about it later. Not wanting to waste any more time, Jack continued onward. I'll just explore for now. After walking for a while, he finally arrived in front of an enormous room. The other rooms were empty. This must be the last one. He scanned his surroundings, thinking, this whole room and there's only a single glass case. Suddenly, a system notification panel appeared right in front of him. It caught his attention. Jack's expression changed, his eyebrows furrowing as he exclaimed, "What?" He gave a helpless smile and continued, Terraan Ranker. That man was truly insane. The system panel read, "You have discovered the legacy of Terraan Ranker, the cursed heart of the fell dragon Bahamut." Jack wondered, he left the heart of the dragon he defeated as his legacy, so that creepy feeling I felt back in the treasury was this. But now his body began to move on its own. The sensation was strange. The system displayed, "The cursed heart of the fell dragon Bahamut is reacting to the administrator." His hand was now resting on the glass case. From that spot, a mysterious black aura flowed out, accompanied by a voice. "All right, I hear you." His expression became unnatural, his eyes wide and vacant. "It seems I have no other choice." "Very well." Jack, as if possessed, and no longer himself, muttered continuously, "I will slaughter them all." At that most critical moment, the system appeared, activating the skill Indomitable Mental Defense. Finally, Jack returned to normal. He clutched his head in confusion, wondering why he had just as he thought that he suddenly felt an intense pain in one of his eyes. His pupil had turned black. A strange dark aura began to envelop his body and the glass cage. It was also being covered by a strange black aura. He shouted, "What is this?" The aura seemed to grow larger, covering the entire space around Jack. He wondered in confusion, "What is this thing?" Suddenly, a system window appeared. Urgent quest. Quest reward ownership of Terraan's legacy. Seeing this, his mind became even more clouded. Skills are activating consecutively. Activating skill Indomitable Mental Defense. Error. Skill activation failed. A sinister dark aura emanated from Jack's body. His eyes were pitch black and terrifying laughter echoed in his head. In this situation, he rammed his head straight into the glass cage in front of him with all his might. The impact was so strong it caused the glass to crack. A sneering voice said, "Still haven't managed to fall, huh? How annoying." Through the glass, he could see a completely different, human-like version of himself. You talk about freedom. Freedom is something you have to take for yourself, you fool. As he finished speaking, the glass instantly shattered into pieces. A system notification appeared. You have overcome the curse of the cursed heart of the evil dragon Bahamut. Urgent quest complete. Quest reward ownership of Terraan's legacy has been obtained. Hearing this, Jack's entire body ached as he collapsed to his knees on the ground. He thought to himself, "Damn it, I was so close to being done for. I can't believe my own skill failed to activate." What was that just now? The system displayed, activating class skill Self-Healing, activating class skill Endless Stamina, beginning absorption of the cursed heart of the evil dragon Bahamut. After a moment waiting for his body to slowly stabilize, he glanced up wearily. Right in front of him, the heart of the evil dragon Bahamut was glowing. Suddenly, Jack felt as if he was being pulled in by that power. His eyes turned completely white, veins bulging. He thought in terror, "What is this? Pure condensed spiritual energy is flying straight into me, but I don't have a spiritual energy circuit to receive it. This vast amount of energy has nowhere to go. And it's destroying my body. This is getting more and more dangerous. I have to do something." Without further hesitation, Jack slowly raised his hand. He gritted his teeth, trying to create a large black sphere. Ultimate Soul Technique Instant Seal. The radiating spiritual energy was gradually gathered. He thought, "I'll wrap the spiritual energy in ether and then seal it in the ether space." Suddenly, a terrifying explosion erupted. It caused the ground all around to shake. From where Jack was standing, a giant column of pitch-black smoke billowed up, punching a hole through the ground. A large, deep crater was formed. Jack's body was now contorted, his eyes glowing brightly as if his body was about to explode. After a moment, his face darkened, and he let out a sigh of relief. He fearfully stepped forward, wondering, "Phew, I'm alive, right?" Jack slowly walked up to the glass cage and stood there silent and pensive for a while. He observed the inside of the cage, thinking, "The heart is gone, so all that spiritual energy must have been from Bahamut." Just as he thought that, he suddenly noticed something. His eyes widened. Through a reflection in a broken piece of glass, he saw a strange mark appearing on his body. What is this?" Jack lightly touched the dragon-shaped mark on his chest, wondering, is this because I sealed Bahamut's spiritual energy? Suddenly, a system notification window appeared in front of him, making him pause. It read, "You have absorbed the cursed heart of the evil dragon Bahamut." Following that, a series of other system windows appeared. Absorbed spiritual energy has refined the administrator's body. The administrator's physical constitution has transformed into a heavenly bone body. Power detected that the administrator cannot handle, compressing and sealing 95% of the power. As the successor, you have received access to the secure storage of Terraan the Ranker, activating introductory level quest log, providing guidance for the low-level administrator. Hearing this, Jack was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Heavenly Bone Body's secure storage of Terraan the Ranker guidance. Why is there another pile of weird stuff? As usual, I'll check it later. For now, let's just clean up. He stopped mid-sentence. He exclaimed, "Wait!" He reached out and tapped the system window, saying, "Except for this one." Jack's expression became incredibly intrigued. A slight smile played on his lips. "My ancestor was quite generous." The system displayed, "Do you wish to open another legacy of Terraan the Ranker?" The system displayed, "Do you wish to open another legacy of Terraan the Ranker?" After a moment's wait, a pile of items quickly materialized in front of Jack. The system announced, "Unlocking the second legacy of Terraan the Ranker." Looking at the pile of items before him, he exclaimed in shock, "This is—" That evening at the Platinum Tower inside his room, Jack carefully stored all the items he had obtained in a locked cabinet. "Looks like the cleanup is almost done." He looked happily at the system window and said, "Now let's take a closer look." A status window quickly appeared. It read, "Status window, low-level administrator. Name Jack Drake. Class, the one and only immortal. Title, Blessed by the Ancient Dragon. Successor of Terraan Drake. Sovereign of the Dragonkin. Constitution, Heavenly Bone Body. System functions inventory 65 slots. Minimap. Introductory level quest log. Class skills, self-healing, indomitable mental defense. Endless stamina, heightened senses, skills precise thrust. Rank E proficient chain / rank D rookie. Critical hit D rank, adept. Flexible footwork C rank, novice. Mana, reversal A rank, novice. Overall muscle A rank, novice. Dragonoid Chronicle level 1. Dragon's Eye novice, Dragon's Fear novice, command arts. Locked. Unlocks when devour condition is met. Locked. Requires 50 points to unlock. Dragonoid Chronicle level 2. Cannot be viewed. Requires 50 points to unlock. Current karma points. 10. Dragonoid Chronicle command arts. Infuses your words with power. Locked. Unlocks when conditions are met. After quickly reading through the information panel, Jack continued to tap on the system window. There are so many extensions. Let's see what else is here. The system displayed sovereignty of the dragon race. Grants the right to rule over the dragon race. Allows summoning and commanding of subjugated dragonkin. Heavenly Bone Body. Optimizes physical abilities. Increases the learning speed of martial arts and enhances the transmission intensity of eager. Even after reading it over and over, Jack was still a bit confused, thinking to himself, just a description doesn't tell me much. And before I caught a glimpse of not just Terraan's second legacy, but also a system window related to Terraan. He sat down on the steps and commanded System, "Show me the notifications related to Terraan again." The system quickly displayed, "To access Terraan's secure archive, data synchronization is required." Hearing this, Jack pressed his hand on the system window, wondering, Terraan's secure archive. The system replied, "Please move to a synchronization point. Would you like the synchronization coordinates displayed on the map?" Minimized. He sighed and exclaimed, "What the?" "So I have to go to a specific location to access it. Show me the location." Immediately, a mini-map appeared before his eyes. He murmured, "So it's—" Jack's expression became extremely puzzled as he wondered Valhalla. From what he knew, Valhalla was the top knight training academy. Thinking this, he scratched his head in frustration. No one can get near it without authorization, let alone get inside. Even for me, sneaking into Valhalla is impossible. Going to Valhalla wasn't part of my plan either. But if something like Terraan's legacy is there... Jack quickly tapped his hand on the system window, thinking, then it's worth changing my plans. Looks like I'll have to stay in this cursed family a little longer. The system displayed Beginner Level Quest Book has been activated. The Beginner Level Quest Book will begin guidance for the low-level administrator. After the tutorial, missions will become available to support the administrator's growth. Completing missions will grant rewards. Hearing this, Jack stroked his chin thoughtfully, thinking, "So I accept missions and get rewards for completing them." The structure is similar to the Adventurers Guild or mercenary quests. But what's this tutorial? Just as he thought that another notification suddenly appeared. Beginning tutorial for the low-level administrator. Before he could even understand what was happening, the surrounding scenery began to change. Everything turned into an endless dark space. Jack stood there bewildered, looking around and wondering, "What is this? Where am I?" He recalled something from before, thinking, "Did I get teleported again like last time?" No. This feeling is completely different. It's as if the entire space has been altered. As soon as he finished his thought, a series of loud noises erupted from behind him. Startled, Jack whipped his head around to see several giant monsters charging at him. He exclaimed, "Orcs!" With that, he glanced down at the system window. It displayed the tutorial mission, defeat the appearing monsters within the time limit by using at least 2 skills. Reward system shop, access points, time limit 60 minutes. Hearing this, he drew his sword, thinking orcs suddenly appear and a corresponding mission is set up. So this tutorial is meant to create situations where I can actively use the system. This should have been provided sooner. Just as he said that, the orcs' giant clubs slammed straight down, shattering the ground and kicking up dust and debris. But Jack was no longer standing in his original spot. He had already dashed in another direction to dodge, activating high-speed movement. Activating continuous slash. The orcs froze in place, trembling violently. Their bodies were covered in dozens of crisscrossing slashes. A moment later, they exploded without even knowing what had happened. Jack thought to himself, the sword and gauntlets. Feel as light as a feather. The system displayed heavenly bone body, optimizes physical abilities, increases the learning speed of martial arts, and enhances the transmission intensity of eager. He wondered, so this is the effect of the heavenly bone body. With this level of power, I can easily take down commander-level enemies. The system announced, tutorial mission complete. Instantly, the scenery returned to the original room. Seeing this, Jack exclaimed, "Oh, I'm back." He returned his sword to its storage, thinking, so it was all just an illusion, the realism was no joke. A notification appeared. Critical bonus has been added to the reward. Time bonus has been added to the reward. Mission reward 40 points, and the shop has been unlocked. He looked at the system window excitedly. I can buy items through the system. The system window now displayed countless strange items. Giant skin, 10 points. An elixir that mimics the tough hide of a giant, temporarily increasing defense. Low-tier speed rune, 7 points. A magic stone engraved with an ancient rune that slightly increases movement speed. Fire giant's mighty breath, 20 points. An elixir containing the condensed breath of a fire giant, which unleashes an inextinguishable flame. Wings of the sky, 5 points. A potion made from bird feathers that temporarily increases agility. After a quick read, he exclaimed, "What's this? This is super convenient." Giant skin, strong breath of the fire. Giant, huh? These are all rare treasures worth hundreds of gold. Just by selling these items back to the shop, I could make a fortune. The notification continued to chime. Please place the item you wish to sell in the designated window. Items stored in your inventory can also be sold. Paired training swords. This item cannot be sold. Elf's dagger. Do you want to sell this item? Selling price 4 points. Hearing the Jack became thoughtful, but selling it seems to only apply to the 3 ancient artifacts. 4 points for this dagger. I could get at least 100 gold for this at an auction. Selling it would be pointless unless I'm desperate for points. With that thought, he stretched wearily and walked off. Phew, what a long day. The lights in the room were quickly turned off. The large door slowly closed behind him. I'll probably sleep for a long time tonight. Early the next morning at the Dragon Academy, inside Professor Fanong's room in the professor's research building, he spoke up. You really managed to bring back a high-density mana stone in just one day. How on earth did you manage that? Hearing this, Jack replied, It's a complicated story. He slowly picked up his teacup and asked, when will the operating device be finished? Fanong replied, It's already finished. These words took him completely by surprise, and he exclaimed, "Already, Professor, you're incredible." He continued, "The fact that you, Jack, brought this here is even more incredible." Seeing Jack's calm demeanor, he felt even more strongly that something was being hidden. So suspicious. Whenever a high-density mana stone is discovered, the great powers of the continent register their various ancient symbols as serial numbers and manage the ownership of these valuable mana stones. Therefore, by checking the serial number, you can determine the time of excavation, the location, and the current owner. Jack thought to himself, but there's no way the one I brought is registered in that book. The Encyclopedia of High-Density Mana Stone, Serial Numbers of the Central Continent. It's a completely new discovery, all my own. Thinking this, he slowly set down his teacup. Suspiciousness aside, he really does have good judgment and skills. He quickly walked over and asked, "If you've finished confirming the registration code, then shall we get going?" Hearing this, Fanong turned in surprise and replied, "Ah, so you know about that too. You're far too talented for this place." Scene changed to Hanbak's forge. A voice rang out from inside. "All right, I'm activating it now." A green magic circle quickly appeared. It was like the main mechanism. It connected all the surrounding parts of the forge. Everything was now operating so perfectly that even Hanbak couldn't believe it. Finally, my design has become a reality. Jack and Fanung standing behind him couldn't help but feel happy for him. The professor spoke up. "Now I have to go teach." Hanbak replied cheerfully, "Thank you, Professor." A little later, after everything had settled down, he looked happily toward Jack and said, "I never imagined that I would see a fully operational magic furnace in my lifetime. Thank you so much, sir." Jack replied, "It was all thanks to you. There's no need for all that." As he spoke, he reached into his backpack, feeling around for something. He continued, "You haven't forgotten the terms we agreed upon, have you?" He replied, "Of course not. Please give me your request." At this point, Jack took out an item and held it out in front of him, proposing, "Forge me a sword with this." Seeing the item before him, Hanbak was stunned. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Sir, this is..." Inside the creaking wooden box was a fang, a dragon's fang, the hardest fang of the cursed evil dragon Bahamut. Hanbak stared at the item, practically drooling as he exclaimed, "This size, and in this condition, I've never seen anything like it. Where on earth did you find it, sir? This is the second legacy of Terraan Drinker, from its heart to its fang. Feels like I'm a grave robber." He smiled and replied, "It's complicated to explain." But before he could finish, Hanbak's sudden reaction made him pause. The man was trembling all over. With tears and snot running down his face, he said, "Sir, not only did you build me a magic furnace, but you're also giving me the chance to forge a dragon's fang." As he spoke, his spirit seemed to explode. He shouted, "I will definitely repay your faith in me." Hanbak's eyes were more determined than ever as he continued, "I am Ganlian Hanbak. I will risk my life for your sword." Those words instantly reminded Jack of a familiar scene from the past. "I am Ganlian Hanbak. I will risk my life for your sword, kid." Hearing that declaration, Jack felt extremely awkward. That kind of talk, it's a lot of pressure. Please don't. But inwardly, Jack smiled, satisfied. He's truly resolute. "All right, I'll trust you." And with that, he happily turned and walked out. "Let's see what kind of sword you'll make. I'm really looking forward to it." Scene change. The Platinum Tower, Jack's bedroom. He tugged at his shirt, letting out a long sigh. Making a sword is seriously exhausting. An image flashed through his mind. The fight with Duke. "It's been a week since I got the message telling me to come back after the bet with Duke was over." Just as he thought of that, he suddenly froze. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Wait a minute. It's about time something happened." From outside the window, footsteps slowly approached. The atmosphere became incredibly tense. And right after that, a voice echoed from behind Jack. "Why didn't you come this time, kid?" Hearing that, Jack's whole body trembled slightly. He forced a strained smile. Duke was furious. His eyes were wide with fury as he roared, "Answer me honestly." Seeing that expression, Jack was terrified, thinking, "He looks like he's going to kill me." With that thought, he quickly waved his hands and said with a nervous laugh, "Ah, well, you said to come back if I wanted a challenge. Naturally, since I had no intention of doing that, I didn't come." The moment he finished speaking, Duke strode right up to him and asked again, "I told you to be honest." His hand shot out, grabbing Jack's collar and yanking him up. Without another word, he threw Jack straight backward. Just like that, Jack went flying out the window. He couldn't even react in time. His eyes flew open in bewilderment as he yelled, "What?" Realizing the danger he was in, he glanced down anxiously at the scene below. It was truly dizzying, so high up. To save himself, Jack quickly kicked off and jumped back up. At this height, I'll die instantly. There'd be no chance to heal. His arm reached out, trying to grab the railing, but before he could, a large hand shot out and clamped around his neck. Duke's face was dark as he asked, "You don't want to challenge me again?" "I don't think you're so clueless that you couldn't understand my meaning. If anything, it was the opposite. You didn't come after you lost. You didn't even show your face. It's as if you were deliberately trying to provoke me." Hearing this, Jack was bewildered. He thought what he knew, but he still went along with it. He continued, "I'll give you 5 seconds. This time answer honestly. 5, 4. Jack gave a slight smirk and muttered, "This is absurd." The hand on his neck tightened as the count continued. 4, 3. Jack said, "You haven't even revealed your true identity." After the count of 2, he continued, "Am I wrong, Gardner Dexter?" Those words made Duke pause. A cryptic smile crept onto his lips. And right after that, he threw Jack hard, sending him tumbling back inside. Leaning against the wall, Jack rubbed his aching head, groaning, "Ow, ow." Duke continued, "All right, you're right, kid," he said. Duke walked up to Jack and extended a hand in introduction. "I was once a Black Knight of the Drake family." Jack thought in confusion, he continued cheerfully, "I am Duke Draker." After a moment of shock, Jack placed a hand on his chest and replied, "To the elder of the family and former member of the Black Knights." He bowed his head slightly and continued, "I sincerely apologize for the disrespect I have shown. As a knight, seeing this display." Duke pointed at him in astonishment and asked, "What's with that 'I knew this would happen' expression?" "What do you mean?" Jack scratched his head, looking bewildered. "Not at all, sir." With that, he stood up and continued to ask, "But, Duke, what did you mean when you said you were a Black Knight?" He replied simply, "I was a Black Knight before, but now I'm a Red Knight." That statement left Jack completely baffled. He wondered, how is that even possible? A knight's rank can increase, but a demotion is unheard of. Duke cut in, interrupting his thoughts. "Kid," Duke warned, "don't bring that up again." Hearing that Jack noticed the man's hand was trembling slightly, he replied, "Understood." He then confidently placed a hand on his chest and added, "Since you've been honest with me, Duke, I will also be honest in return." Duke immediately asked, "So you guessed my identity from the very beginning and deliberately provoked me to become my official disciple?" Jack answered, "Yes, that's correct." Upon hearing that answer, Duke, looking extremely interested, exclaimed, "The kid's got guts, huh?" Finishing his sentence, he slapped his thigh with a loud smack and roared, "All right." Duke, beaming with a wide, happy smile, shouted, "I'll take you as my disciple." Everything happened so smoothly that Jack barely had time to process it. That's it." Without a moment's hesitation, he dropped to one knee, thinking, "I'd better do this before he changes his mind." He began to recite the oath, "I, Jack Draker, hereby offer the disciple's oath to the great Duke Draker. Knight among knights, I swear to follow my master's teachings with utmost dedication, to cultivate the virtues of learning, and to strive to preserve and elevate my master's honor." Hearing this, he looked pleased and replied, "Oh, you even know the disciple's oath. It's rarely used these days." He smiled and added, "Cultural knowledge is a knightly virtue, isn't it?" Duke replied curtly, "You cunning little brat." Jack gave a wry smile and said, "I'll take that as a compliment." Then he glanced up and asked, "But master, may I ask one question?" He replied, "A bit quick to call me master, aren't you? Go on, ask." He asked bluntly, "What was it about me that you found so appealing? That you decided to take me as your disciple?" It's well known that Duke is famous for not taking disciples. Even the prodigy of the century Andre had to beg for years just to become his one and only student. Why did he accept me so easily? I have a guess. He must have seen my potential during the bet, something that far surpasses Andre's talent. The man clearly has a sharp eye. Duke laughed and asked back, "And why do you think that is?" Take a guess, disciple. Jack answered frankly. Because I'm the ultimate prodigy, of course. The man held his head at a loss for words. Your confidence is truly admirable. Ha ha ha. If that were the reason, I would have taken Gina as my disciple. He continued, it's because you have determination. Not all so-called prodigies can reach the level of a Crimson or Black Knight. Those who grow up without facing hardship will crumble easily at the slightest challenge. Hearing this, Jack's expression turned cold as he thought, he's right. Many prodigies who are expected to at least reach the Crimson rank end up getting stuck at the Violet or Blue rank. Just as he thought this, Duke slowly stood up and said, that's enough chit-chat. He continued, follow me. The first lesson begins now. Jack grew excited and replied, yes, master. As the scene changed to the west greenhouse of the training grounds, he looked around and thought, who would have thought that underneath the greenhouse there'd be a place like this? What is he going to make me do? He told me to run, so I ran. I can't figure anything out from his expression, but it's been 3 hours already. Just as he had that thought, Duke shouted, stop. Hearing this, Jack asked in surprise, so I can stop running now? He continued, yes, but I want to ask you something. Jack cheerfully waved his hand and replied, yes, master. What would you like to know? Suddenly, Duke appeared right behind him without a trace and said softly, nothing much. He quickly reached out and grabbed Jack's hand. Sensing something was wrong, Jack immediately flung his arm up and recoiled, his expression becoming more guarded than ever. Jack glanced down at his reddened hand, frowning at the action. Duke spoke pensively, checking your energy isn't so easy, is it? This statement left Jack utterly confused, and sweat began to pour down his face. The man continued, all right. Something was off from the very beginning. In the infirmary during the trial, even in the greenhouse during the bet, and just now after 500 laps around the training grounds, I couldn't sense any aura from you. When I tried to check your pulse, you dodged, kid. Based on these deductions, he delivered a line that made Jack freeze. Don't tell me. You can't use aura, can you? Duke spoke up. The bronze statue reacted, didn't it? He slowly approached, continuing, an unprecedented golden light caused a commotion and brought you here. Stepping up to stand right in front of Jack, he stopped. So, why did you stop me from checking your pulse? Hearing that, he didn't know how to respond. Glancing at Duke with a cold look, he thought, it's curiosity, not suspicion. A Draker who can't use aura is a serious situation. But it seems his interest comes first. It's lucky for me that I'm dealing with Duke. Once I get Graham, I won't be suspected of lacking aura anymore. Until then, I have to be careful and cautious. I don't need to spin a long-winded lie. Not like in my past life when I was the family's first failed awakening. Thinking this, he slowly pulled off his glove and replied, you're right, master. A system notification suddenly appeared. Skill Aura Reversal has been activated. He continued, I even have the ability to influence aura, a hallmark of the true bloodline, and yet for some reason I can't use aura. Jack held his hand out in front of Duke, thinking this truth will serve as the perfect cover for my deception. He began to put on an act. I'm sorry. I was terrified before, because if it got out that a Draker can't use aura. 2 streams of tears rolled down his cheeks as he continued. I'd be exiled. A plausible excuse for this situation. At those words, Duke gently reached out his hand to feel the aura on Jack's body, his expression growing pensive. Jack asked in surprise, so, what do you think, master? The man's gaze shifted slightly, looking down at Jack, as if he wanted to say something. He thought to himself, a kid with such determination at this age. But why can't I sense any aura from him, especially after he's supposedly awakened? The more Duke thought about it, the more confused he became, unsure how to explain this situation. Jack's face darkened as he schemed. Even if he checks my pulse, he won't be able to be sure. The blessing ceremony is paramount to the Draker family. Just then, Duke spoke softly. He thought to himself, even if I really can't awaken my aura, he'll probably find some reason to explain it away. But all his speculation came to a halt. When the old man uttered, an aberrant, Jack closed his eyes, thinking an aberrant. Of course, this is how this is going to play out. If he doesn't understand the concept of classes, then that conclusion is logical. He feigned innocence and asked, what's an aberrant master? He replied, it refers to people with Yeshi, abnormal abilities. For example, someone who uses both light and spirit energy, or someone who can see the future things that defy common sense. Because of that, aberrants are often treated poorly. Don't you go around telling people you might be an aberrant. He continued to run after him, asking, then why do you think I'm an aberrant master? Duke walked on and replied, your abnormal stamina and recovery, no matter how minor. Internal injuries still need time to heal, but you recover almost instantly. I'm certain a massive amount of energy was consumed. What do you think that energy was? He replied, aura. He continued, exactly. My theory is that any aura you generate is immediately consumed by your stamina and recovery, leaving no trace for you to sense. This statement made even Jack marvel. Wow, that's actually pretty convincing. He stepped forward and asked, so, does that mean I'll never be able to use my aura? Hearing this, his master burst out laughing. Ha ha, don't worry. As he said this, he glanced at him with a smirk. The whirlwind technique doesn't require aura. It's a special technique, Duke explained. Special techniques are unique skills developed by high-level knights. Usually they involve applying or enhancing dragon-slaying techniques which require aura. But my whirlwind technique relies entirely on physical training. With that, he began to stretch his limbs. I'll demonstrate. Watch closely. As soon as he finished speaking, his body shot forward like a flash of lightning, leaving a large indent in the ground. This speed made it impossible for Jack to look away. He had to try his best to carefully observe every one of his master's incredibly swift movements. He could only perceive the faintest footsteps all around him, but couldn't see the man at all. After a moment, Duke stopped right in front of Jack. He looked at him and asked, did you see that? He slowly stood up and replied, I just have to follow your footsteps, right? His words took the old man by surprise. Well, if that's all you think there is to it, then I don't need to explain any further, Jack added. I've seen enough. The old man laughed and exclaimed, your confidence rivals that of a black knight. All right then, show me what you've got. Immediately after Jack got into position, his eyes showing a confidence that no one else could possess. Suddenly, he vanished from his spot, leaving only a small footprint inside the large one that Duke had left behind. Jack's body leaped nimbly from side to side, greatly surprising the old man. Jack thought to himself by following his footsteps. Paths that were previously invisible have now appeared. Every step has a purpose, whether it's to attack, evade, close the distance, or create space. Not a single step is wasted. After moving for a while, Jack also came to a screeching halt. Seeing this, Duke thought to himself, unbelievable. It's only been a week. He has the talent for it. But this level, he looked towards where Jack was standing, deep in thought. The spacing of his steps is quite different, isn't it? He wondered to himself, what on earth happened in just 1 week? Duke became more and more intrigued. He smiled brightly and exclaimed, a perfect prodigy. Jack glanced at him and with a confident smile asked, I'm worthy of a black knight's confidence now, aren't I? Seeing this, the old man got annoyed and thought, if only he could get rid of that insufferable attitude. Duke ran over, grabbed him tightly by the collar, and scolded, you little brat! You were crying just a minute ago, and now you're already getting cocky. Jack hurriedly pulled him back. You're not planning on bragging about me, are you? That depends on your attitude. This insolent disciple. What kind of former black knight isn't discreet at all? Some time passed. In the Academy's grand dining hall, the food today was incredibly plentiful, with a full spread of savory and sweet dishes. Jack devoured a heaping plate of food all by himself. He thought to himself, it's been a month since I started training under Dexter, and my portions just keep getting bigger. As he was ravenously chewing, a figure suddenly approached him. The person who had just arrived was none other than Andre. He spoke up asking, could you spare a moment? Hearing this, Jack Drake was surprised, thinking to himself, Andre. However, he wasn't in any hurry. He gave a slight shrug and replied, if it's here, then fine. Because I'm very busy, the other man replied. That's fine. With that, Andre pulled up a chair and sat down in front of him, asking, how did you convince Dexter? He thought to himself, straight to the point, huh? Looks like he's panicking, because I've become a disciple, even though I haven't officially become one yet. After thinking for a moment, Jack replied while chewing ravenously, "Convince him." Why, there was no need. Dexter chose me himself. This statement made Andre even angrier. Gritting his teeth, he shot a scrutinizing gaze at Jack. After thinking for a moment, he spoke. "In the end, it's just because you're a true blood." Hearing this, Jack exclaimed in confusion, "What?" With that, he slammed his knife and fork down on the table. Without hesitation, he asked him directly, "Is your inferiority complex really that bad?" Hearing that question, Andre tried to clench his trembling hands and replied, "Is that all you have to say?" He continued, "No, that's only half of it." Wiping his mouth, Jack continued, "Even if he was initially drawn to my lineage, do you really think someone like Dexter would take on a disciple for such a simple reason? The reason I was able to become his disciple, aside from that initial interest, is because of my talent." He threw a piece of paper towards him and said, "So instead of wasting time on a bit of jealousy to boost your confidence, why don't you make an effort to become someone worthy of being chosen?" Scene change at the greenhouse west of the training grounds. Jack looked at Dexter in bewilderment and asked, "What is this?" His master replied, "I'm wondering the exact same thing." They both looked towards Andre, who was running non-stop despite being completely exhausted, and exclaimed, "What's wrong with that brat?" "I don't know. He begged to be allowed to stay close, even offering to be a servant if necessary. I told him to run 300 laps without using his aura if he wanted to stay, and now he's actually doing it." Hearing this, Jack was astonished, thinking to himself, 300 laps without aura. Dexter held his head and sighed, or maybe that guy is just a certified lunatic. He smiled and thought to himself, I thought he was just an arrogant guy, but it seems he's got some determination after all. The next morning at Draker, the atmosphere was livelier than usual, accompanied by whispers and chatter. "You idiot, did you forget what day it is? The family head is visiting today." Immediately after, the thundering sound of horse hooves echoed as a magnificent white carriage with golden emblems appeared. Seeing this, someone shouted loudly, "The head of the family is arriving." Howard approached, stroking his beard, and said, "Everyone prepare yourselves." His subordinates immediately replied, "Yes, headmaster." All attention turned to the carriage that had come to a stop. Soldiers quickly stood on both sides and opened the door. From inside the carriage, a person with platinum blonde hair slowly stepped down and said, "It's been a while, Howard." Hearing this, Howard respectfully bowed his head and replied, "I greet you, master of the Draker family." As he said this, all the soldiers standing around shouted in unison, "We greet you, master of the Draker family." On a clock, the hands began to move. The hour and minute hands pointed exactly to 12 o'clock noon. An incredibly terrifying, oppressive aura emanated from the Drake family head. He raised his large hand, reaching out and placing it directly on Howard's shoulder. The family head spoke, "You've been through a lot, I can imagine." Hearing this, he immediately replied, "My efforts are nothing compared to yours, my lord." The family head smiled with satisfaction and continued, "I will continue to count on you then." He is Arthur Draker, head of the Draker family, one of the 3 great Dragon Slayer families. Howard then spoke respectfully, "The sun is a bit harsh today. Shall we go inside?" Just as he said this, he was stopped. All the students hearing the loud noise rushed out in unison. Is that the family head?" "Where?" Arthur stepped forward to stand before everyone. He raised one hand and then said loudly, "Oh, young dragon slayers, you are the future and the hope of the Draker family. Continue to train diligently more and more. Your growth." At this point, a hidden meaning flickered in his eyes, and with a smile he said loudly, "Is the growth of Draker." After hearing those words of instruction, all the students bowed their heads and replied in unison, "We will keep it in mind, my lord." The sunlight grew ever more brilliant. Arthur turned and started to walk away, saying, "All right, let's go." Howard replied, "Yes, my lord." A moment later, from outside the family head's room, a voice called out, "My lord, master of all knights and protector of the Dragon Slayer's honor. Arthur Draker, I am Jack Draker, a member of this family." He stood before him and continued, "I offer you my respect and greetings." Hearing this, Arthur turned back with a bright smile and replied, "Even the people at the fortress of the 4 seasons don't greet me like that anymore. Skip the formalities and have a seat." "I heard you like tea." "I've brought something exquisite. I hope it's to your taste." Jack replied softly, "Thank you for the tea." He looked at the man with a hint of suspicion, thinking to himself, even my taste in tea gets reported back to the family. There's a saying, there are things even the emperor doesn't know. But there's nothing the Draker family doesn't know. I'm starting to feel that now. Just as he had that thought, Arthur spoke up. The reason I summoned you, my son, is because I heard some surprising news that Duke has taken on a disciple. His words startled Jack, who thought, straight to the point. No beating around the bush, huh? With that thought, he replied, Master Duke was simply showing me his generosity, that's all. The man calmly sipped his tea and continued, Is that so? If you say so, then I suppose it must be. I don't know what your goal is, but as long as you follow Duke's teachings, you will become the strongest on the continent. As he finished, a calculating glint appeared in Arthur's golden eyes. He continued, stronger than anyone, so that you can live more freely than anyone else. After speaking, he gently placed his teacup on the table. Jack said cheerfully, That is precisely my goal. Seeing his confident expression, Arthur's face darkened, and he didn't reply. Suddenly, the space around them was distorted by an oppressive pressure. He asked again, Then does that include surpassing me? Doesn't it? At that moment, Jack's whole body went rigid, sweat pouring off him as if he'd been drenched. He wondered in agony, Could this be within this domain? The power of life and death over all beings is controlled. Though it was agonizing, he still felt incredibly intrigued. A smile formed on his lips as he thought, the celestial sword, the pinnacle of aura manipulation, a level only attainable by the Black Knights. Arthur glanced down at his son, the corner of his mouth twitching into a smirk. Jack hadn't collapsed. He looked straight at the man and replied, Of course. Hearing that confident reply, the man smiled faintly and picked up his teacup. Immediately after the immense aura in the room was withdrawn, he spoke, Of all the things I've heard recently. That was the most interesting. Jack, looking a bit worried, thought, Is this? The man continued, I came to the academy to encourage you, but now that I've seen you, encouragement alone is not enough. Faced with such a presence, he couldn't help but think, the current master of the Draker family, a true Black Knight. Arthur placed a card on the table. Seeing it, Jack thought, I already thought Duke's level was absurd. But this is on a completely different level. The man continued, as a gift. To celebrate you becoming Duke's disciple, Jack asked in surprise. This is, Arthur replied, a black card. His words startled Jack, who blurted out, Father, you're giving this to me. The man continued, Judging by your reaction, it seems you know what it is. Jack took the card, thinking, a card issued only to a very select few VIPs. It's known to provide benefits that are immense with no spending limit. I never thought I'd see this legendary card with my own eyes. Arthur smiled and said, I will add you as an authorized user. Feel free to use it. Jack replied, Thank you, Father. I will be sure to use it wisely. He glanced at the card, thinking, his words are kind, but his intention is all too clear. Since the card records all information, it means it'll be easier to track my actions. Still, the fact that he's using a subtle method instead of brute force means he's not paying too much attention to me yet. Arthur continued, I can't waste any more of your precious time, Jack. You will become the strongest. He waved his hand dismissively. You may leave now. He bowed and replied, Understood, Master. With that, he quickly went outside, slowly closing the door behind him. He then walked silently back to his room. Inside the room, the silence was suffocating. Arthur leaned his head back in the chair, his eyes closed. Suddenly, Duke appeared from behind him with a displeased look on his face. Honestly, what a detestable man. Hearing this, Arthur smiled and asked, Why are you so worked up, Duke? Duke's lips curled into a smirk as he replied, You left that boy to rot in his cradle, and now you're playing the role of a caring father. Arthur glanced at him and continued, As the head of the family, I have no choice. You know that. And what you just said could be considered slander against the family head. Duke waved his hand dismissively, sat down, and sighed. Fine. Arrest me then. Arthur reached into his coat, pulled something out, and said with a laugh, This is why you're the only one I can speak freely with. The thing he had taken out was a bottle of liquor. He smiled and added, Let's talk over a drink. Upon seeing the bottle, Duck's face lit up with excitement. He exclaimed, Dragon's breath, and the red label no less. See, you do have some taste after all. The two continued their conversation. You've heard about the strange situation on the continent. Haven't you? I'm cooped up in the academy. Duke smiled and continued, "How would I know anything?" Arthur retorted, "Your eyes and ears all over the continent are still active, aren't they?" Duke's face flushed red as he scoffed. "You already know, so why are you even asking, you old fox?" The Emperor, obsessed with immortality, is searching the entire continent like a madman. He asked, "Do you think it's possible?" These words left Duke speechless. He said loudly, "Of course not. Eternal youth might be achievable through magic, but immortality is absolutely impossible." Hearing this, the Emperor's eyes grew pensive as he continued. "I agree," he went on, "but what if it involves an ancient dragon artifact?" Those words made Duke freeze in his tracks, exclaiming, "What?" Inside Arthur's room, the conversation was heating up. Even if magic could make a person look younger, immortality was still completely out of the question. In a nearby room, Rick was standing and observing. What if... what? He stood silently in one spot, using his spirit form skill to listen in on the entire conversation, while Arthur and Duke remained completely unaware of another's presence. They discussed, what if the artifact he's looking for is related to an ancient dragon? That's just one possibility. Duke asked, is it possible he's already found its location? Arthur replied, perhaps. The Black Knights have reported to me that the artifact is most likely located on the northern continent. Hearing this, he asked again, the northern continent. He continued to ask, the people of the Empire don't know this information yet, do they? Arthur replied, no, but it's only a matter of time before they find out. This reminds me of the past. That insane emperor had only just ascended the throne when he began his war to unify the continent. The war didn't stop until he had conquered half of the central continent. I thought he would give up on that insane and corrupt dream, but it seems I was wrong. If even one of those artifacts can grant immortality, that's enough to... Before Duke could finish, Arthur interrupted. This continent will once again be plunged into a sea of fire. Then he continued, realizing the gravity of this situation. I've decided to take a trip to the north by myself. Hearing this, Duke exclaimed in shock. What, you're abandoning your post when you know for a fact that son of a... bitch emperor will wreak havoc everywhere? He smiled knowingly and replied, that's why I came to see you. Hearing Arthur's words, Duke understood the implication. He sighed and asked, were you a fox in a past life or something? You're so damn cunning in this one. And just like that, the two came to an agreement and clinked their glasses. Right beside them, Rick was still listening, not missing a single word. I knew I could count on you. You always make me do the hard stuff. Just as he heard this, he suddenly collapsed to his knees, his face growing weary. He thought to himself, I've overused my spirit form. Even after absorbing Bahamut's heart, I still can't do anything about this side effect. Ancient dragon. That's right. So the statue I was holding before I regressed must have been an ancient dragon artifact. The voice I heard in my head before I died, and the system message I saw right after I was reborn. It all makes sense now. I stole the artifact the Emperor coveted. He even sent his hounds to hunt me down. At the time, I didn't even care what it was. However, I did find one clue. The admin system that sent me back in time is a function of the ancient dragon artifact. But who created it? And why? Thinking about this, he sat down on the floor, his mind a mess, and sighed. In the end, I just have more questions. After they finished talking, Duke started to leave, saying, all right, I'll get on it right away. Arthur waved his hand and replied, I'm counting on you. After seeing his old friend off, he quickly returned to his room, his steps powerful and swift. Suddenly, Arthur froze, standing motionless. He cast a probing glance toward the closed room as if he sensed something. Inside the room, Rick was still sitting there, deep in thought. If this really is the artifact the Emperor is looking for, then what does rebirth have to do with eternal life? Just as he thought this, a loud noise suddenly rang out, startling him. His eyes flew wide open. From outside the door. Arthur suddenly pushed the door open and rushed inside, but before his eyes, the room was completely empty. There was no sign of anyone. It turned out that in that most critical moment, Rick had managed to jump out the window to hide. He stood there wondering, was I mistaken? A while later, Rick returned to the training area. As he was training, a loud knock suddenly came from the door. Hearing it, he said, didn't I say not to disturb me? In the training room, Deacon replied. My apologies, young master. A classmate has come to see you. Shall I tell them to leave? This made him extremely curious. He thought to himself, a classmate model, what friends I don't have any at the academy. Unless it's Gina. With that thought, he replied, all right. Jack wearily looked at the man kneeling before him, thinking to himself, Liam Stone again. How am I supposed to be your friend? The man kept kneeling on the ground, pleading loudly, please, I beg you, accept me. Hearing this, Jack sighed uncomfortably, thinking, I really should have just left then. After a moment, he asked, accept you? What do you mean, as a subordinate? Liam lowered his head and replied, yes, master, I swear my loyalty to you. Jack asked back, then what about Jackson? Hearing this, the man grew angry, clenching his fists on the ground. I have abandoned him. His face darkened, sweat pouring down like rain as he continued anxiously, I have to get into Valhalla. Seeing his attitude, Jack wondered to himself, it was the same in my past life too. Why is he so obsessed with Valhalla? Liam didn't give up, continuously begging, please, I beg you, accept me. Jack replied, are you an idiot? You should have chosen Jimin or Terraan. As he spoke, he turned to leave. I don't have any family backing me. He walked over, picked up a sword, and continued. That means I'm useless when it comes to helping you get into Valhalla, and a sharp glint appeared in his eyes as he asked, why should I trust you? Frankly, his next words made Liam's face darken, sweat pouring down in fear. You could be a spy sent by Jackson. Suddenly, the man pulled out a dagger. He looked more determined than ever, wanting to prove his loyalty. Liam gritted his teeth. He brought the dagger to his ear, and without a moment's hesitation, sliced it off to prove his point. Liam raised the dagger and shouted, It's only right for you to doubt me, but I will prove it to you no matter the cost. His whole body trembled as he continued, if you want me crippled, I'm willing to cut off my own legs. My life is yours to decide. Master... His words left Jack completely bewildered. His cold eyes glanced back as he recalled the scene from before. In exchange for sparing your life, I will take this ear. Liam, his expression more serious than ever, said, so please take me in. Jack recalled a familiar scene. He once stood before his master and said, I want to become stronger and surpass everyone. His eyes back then looked exactly like Liam's do now. Please teach me, master. Returning to the present, faced with this reflection of his past self, Jack still didn't know what to say. He continued to beg, please, I'm begging you. The moment he finished speaking, Jack thrust his sword straight at him, replying, one strike. He pointed directly at the man's face and continued, if you can withstand one strike from me, I will accept you. These words gave Liam a glimmer of hope. He smiled and replied, thank you so much, sir. A moment later, Jack asked, are you fully healed yet? He replied, yes, sir. He thought anxiously to himself, to be honest, I thought one strike would be easy. After all, the fact that I can use the Drake family's aura is undeniable. However, is he really the same age as me? The aura Jack was emitting made his whole body tremble in fear. His eyes glazed over as he uttered, I can barely breathe. Before Liam was even ready, Jack charged forward, sword in hand. With no time to think, he desperately swung his own sword up. The clash of the two swords created a massive shockwave. The blades ground against each other, sending sparks flying right after. One sword was knocked into the air, and it was none other than Liam's. He collapsed onto the ground, his face filled with terror. Jack spoke up, asking, Liam Stone, is this all you've got? He continued with a look of disappointment. You're letting me down. But Jack stood looking straight at Liam and said, I acknowledge your determination. Then he turned away, adding, but you'd be better off giving up on your dream of going to Valhalla. Hearing this, he shot to his feet, calling out, Sir, Jack. Jack thought to himself, it seems he really was abandoned by Dragon, if he weren't Dragon's servant. Then someone from a distant branch of the family like him would never have been able to study at Cradle. Even I, a direct blood relative, was kicked out of the academy. It wouldn't be strange if Liam were to be expelled now, too. Just as he had that thought, he suddenly stopped. I guess he has a reason to be worried. He glanced behind him. Liam was on the ground, clinging tightly to his leg. But is it really worth clinging on this desperately? In my past life, Liam was expelled from the academy, and his knightly order was disbanded. After that, he achieved the rank of Red Knight and became the king of mercenaries. Helpless with tears streaming down his face, Liam pleaded, Please, sir, give me one more chance. Seeing this, Jack felt extremely conflicted. This guy really has no intention of giving up, does he? He thought. With that thought, he said, "Fine, I'll give you a chance." His expression darkened as he continued. "But there's one condition. You said that if I wanted you to be mute, you'd be willing to cut out your tongue, or if I wanted you crippled, you'd be willing to cut off your legs. Is that right?" Jack slowly walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. He commanded in a low voice, "Then cut off your right arm." These words made Liam freeze, his eyes widening in terror. Seeing his hesitation, Jack asked again, "What's wrong? Is this arm too precious to you?" He thought to himself, this is the same as telling him to give up his life as a swordsman. No one in their right mind would accept this. With that thought, Jack stood up and said, "I have a mountain of training exercises to get through, so if you can't do it, you should just leave." A moment later, Liam slowly stood up. Seeing this, Jack glanced back, thinking to himself, "I don't know why you're so desperate. But I hope you don't lose heart, Liam. Even if you can't make it to Valhalla, you can still reach the level of a Red Knight." Just as he thought that, the sword stuck in the ground was suddenly slowly pulled up. Jack's eyes widened in shock. Liam was actually going to cut off his own right arm. Jack rushed forward in anger, thinking, "This lunatic." At the same time, he was bringing the sword down. At the most critical moment, Jack managed to shatter his blade with his own sword. Both of them were stunned. They stood frozen facing each other as the broken blade clattered across the ground. Panting, Liam looked down at his hand in fear. Jack couldn't take it anymore. He ran over, grabbed him by the collar, and angrily shouted, "Are you out of your mind? What if I had changed my mind after you cut off your hand?" Hearing this, Liam's expression turned incredibly sad as he replied, "That's because," he continued, "I can't give up on something that's even more important than this arm." Hearing that, Jack turned away and said, "If you ever pull a stupid stunt like that again, I won't hesitate to kick you out whether you're loyal or not. Remember that?" These words made Liam exclaim with joy, "Sir Jack, does that mean—" Before he could finish, Jack cut him off. "Get a move on, Liam. What would people think if my subordinate only had one ear?" He replied joyfully, "Yes, I understand, sir." A while later, inside the dining hall, the two of them sat enjoying a meal. Liam's ear had been treated. He asked worriedly, "Is it really okay for me to use such good medicine?" Jack smiled and replied, "Don't worry, you're worth the investment." Having said that, he gently placed his teacup on the table, his expression turning more serious than ever. "So, what exactly is going on? Your right arm? No. What is more important to you than your own life?" Hearing this question, Liam clutched his arm and answered, "It's my mother." He explained, "A few days after I was kicked out by Dragon, I received news that my mother had collapsed from a high fever. Luckily, the fever went down quickly, but her body was covered in red spots that looked like roses. Not to mention, she's getting weaker by the day." As he spoke, he slumped onto the table in anguish. "The healers in the village don't even know the name of this disease." Jack asked, "So that's why you're aiming for Valhalla?" He replied, "That's right. The medical benefits that Valhalla provides for its students and their families are considered the best on the continent." Hearing this, Jack picked up a pen, dipped it in ink, and began writing something on a piece of paper as he spoke. "Red spots that look like roses, you say? Periodic high fevers and rose-shaped red spots all over the body. These are the symptoms of the red rose disease, a plague that will spread across the entire central continent within the next 5 years. With its high transmission and mortality rates, it will claim countless lives until a breakthrough cure is developed, ending the pandemic." With this in mind, Jack handed the paper to Liam and said, "This is the formula for the medicine that will cure your mother's illness. It's not too difficult, so the village healers should be able to make it." He took the paper in astonishment, replying, "Thank you, sir. But how do you know about a disease that even the healers don't have a name for?" The genius alchemist brothers Al and Zeph developed the cure that saved the declining central continent back then. But the Alchemy Guild was blinded by money and exploited desperate people to rake in huge profits. When the two brothers found out about this, they made the formula public. The information spread so widely that even mercenaries like me learned about it. Jack smiled and replied, "Let's just say I know a talented alchemist." He continued, "Now that you have the cure, and there's no reason for you to go to Valhalla or become my subordinate anymore." Hearing this, Liam shot to his feet and exclaimed, "How could I possibly do that?" He said frankly, "I have already given my life to you, sir." With that, he clenched his fist, touched it to the ground, and knelt before Jack. "From now on, I swear my loyalty to you for the rest of my life." Jack smiled, thinking to himself, an oath of loyalty, huh? Having the mercenary king as a subordinate is truly reassuring. With that thought, he said aloud, "If you fall behind, I'll leave you behind. So make sure you keep up with me." He replied, "Yes, I understand, master." And just like that, time passed quickly. Night had fallen, and from within a room a voice could be heard. "So what is it?" Hogwarts asked. Student Owen continued, "Yes, headmaster, there's something I'd like to discuss. What do you think about increasing the difficulty of this semester's evaluation exam?" The statement seemed to surprise him, and he asked why. Owen smiled and replied, "You might find this a bit presumptuous, sir, but this year's first-year students are very talented. They all come from prestigious families, and there are even 2 awakened purebloods among them. If this exam is as easy as last year's, it won't properly test their abilities." Hearing that answer, Hogwarts seemed to agree. That makes sense. Truly worthy of the Jaimin's bloodline. He said he would consider it. He immediately bowed his head and replied, "Thank you, headmaster." With that said, he quickly left and the door closed behind him. Hogwarts turned to face the window, letting out a heavy sigh. He thought pensively to himself, "Bloodlines never lie after all. I can't believe he thinks the same way as that person. Considering the potential future threats, it would be better to nip it in the bud during the dungeon exploration on the day of the semester evaluation." The Dungeon Exploration Test. It's a special evaluation at Draker Academy, where a team of 2 must escape a dungeon within a set time limit. A unique feature of this evaluation is, each team is assigned to a dungeon of varying difficulty and type. Inside the dungeon, Jack looked at Liam and asked, "Are you nervous, Liam?" He replied, "Yes, a little." Hearing this, he smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry. It's perfectly normal. But worrying too much leads to mistakes, while worrying too little leads to arrogance, so it's best to have just the right amount of concern." Nearby, Vina was also extremely nervous about this test. Suddenly, a loud voice called out, "Next, Jack Drake, Liam Stone." Hearing this, he said, "Let's go." Liam replied, "Yes, master." As the 2 were about to enter, someone suddenly approached, holding up a hand to stop them. "Hold on." He pointed to the side and said, "You 2 will go this way." Before them was a dark, cold, and incredibly mysterious-looking dungeon. He could sense that something was off here. Jack glanced around observing. Seeing that the 2 were still standing there, the professor urged them, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and get inside, students." Hearing this, he just smiled faintly without replying. Then the 2 of them decided to enter the assigned dungeon. As you wish. Although the difficulty varies by dungeon, since this is a test dungeon managed by Draker, there shouldn't be any major dangers. The ultimate goal is still to escape within the time limit. Each team is given a timer that starts counting down the moment they enter, and the exact time limit is 96 hours. Basic combat skills are also part of the evaluation. You can earn extra points by bringing back the heads of any monsters you defeat. However, the most important thing is still to escape the dungeon. Therefore, failing to escape within the allotted time means you fail. Inside the dungeon, Jack spoke casually. "We just finished eating, so you should get some rest, Liam." Hearing this, he replied, "But you set up the camp and prepared the meal all by yourself, sir." "Why don't you rest first?" Jack continued. "I can go for 4 days without sleep and be fine, so don't worry." After he said that, Liam didn't dare to argue further. "Well then, if you don't mind, sir, I'll rest first." He replied, "All right. I'll wake you if anything happens." And so the 2 of them set up a tent and rested by a fire in the dark, cold dungeon. Jack sat looking at the watch on his wrist, thinking to himself, "It's been 16 hours since we entered the dungeon, and I was awake for 3 days straight before the test. So, in total, I've been up for about 90 hours. However, infinite stamina can only recover physical fatigue. It can't recover mental fatigue. In a place like this where anything can happen, it's best to minimize as many risks as possible." Around him now, a series of tripwires with bells had been set up as a precaution. His eyes began to grow heavy and blur. "All right, when Liam wakes up, I'll switch shifts with him." Suddenly, an image of a bell in a snow-covered landscape flashed in his mind. Jack's eyes slowly closed as he succumbed to sleep. A strange scene, an unfamiliar scene, continued to unfold in his mind, a place he had never seen before. Above the city gate was a red flag with a large lion emblem. Everything was completely desolate and in ruins. It looked as if a war had just taken place. On the pure white snow lay the body of a girl soaked in blood. He couldn't make out her face at all. He only heard a bell ring. Instantly, Jack jolted awake, his eyes wide and drenched in sweat. Before him was still the scene inside. The dungeon with the yellow flame still burning brightly. He clutched his aching head, panting heavily. Damn it, that dream again. But wait, I'm sure I heard a bell somewhere. Just as he thought that, he suddenly remembered the tripwire with the bells set up outside the entrance. Jack immediately doused the fire with water and called out to Liam. Wake up, Liam, enemies are here. I'm going to check the situation. Don't you dare light that fire. He replied, I understand, master. Jack cautiously hid by the edge of the entrance, thinking to himself, using Dragon's Eye during a 4-day test is too risky. It's best to let my eyes adjust to the darkness. Just as I thought that a strange scent suddenly wafted past my nose. Is this the smell of sulfur? Don't tell me. A creature that smells of sulfur and hunts in packs. A grade 3 hazardous monster. A hellhound. Jack thought worriedly, his hand tightening around his sword. In my past life, Reyna brought back the heads of orcs for her evaluation, but I never expected to run into hellhounds here. He glanced into the distance to assess the situation, but strangely he couldn't see a single one. Wait, something's not right. Even their alpha shouldn't weigh more than a few hundred kilos. With that thought, Jack slowly raised his sword. Using the reflection on the blade, he looked toward the cave entrance. But with these vibrations, it feels like it must weigh at least 10 tons. Could it be a mutant? Before he could even figure out what was happening, a massive tremor struck. Damn it! Rocks and earth around the cave shattered, falling in large chunks. Fortunately, in that moment of danger, Jack managed to use his sword to steady himself. Seeing this, Liam ran over worriedly and asked, Sir, are you all right, master? He angrily gritted his teeth, thinking, those damn bastards. Right in front of him, a hellhound of terrifyingly large proportions was approaching. I knew they were behind this. However, it didn't stop there. The hellhound's eyes went dark. Its head was severed, dangling loosely. The thing that appeared was enormous. Liam, with a look of horror, asked, a troll. A grade 1 hazardous monster. It can easily devour hellhounds and orcs, and their blood is a key ingredient in crafting recovery potions. But more importantly, they have an absurdly powerful regenerative ability. Suddenly, before Jack could say anything, Liam stepped forward. He raised his sword, shielding him, and said, Let me distract it. In the meantime, please run away, master. Hearing this, Jack knew he had chosen the right person. He smiled in satisfaction, looking at him. Then he slowly walked over, tapped him lightly, and replied, Don't say such hopeless things. The two of them stood back to back, ready to fight. What kind of master abandons his own subordinate? He continued, I believe in your efforts, Liam. You're not weak at all. I'll support you, so just go all out. Hearing that, although he was incredibly tense, he felt more confident and replied, Thank you, my master. Immediately, the two of them coordinated, dashing like lightning toward the monster before them. Before the troll could even react, it was struck by countless critical sword slashes. Jack glanced at it and thought to himself, not bad, quite impressive. He managed to damage the troll's tough hide. On top of that, he's aiming precisely for the joints. He wondered, did you spend time studying these monsters or something? Liam, Jack thought, but just then the troll's club suddenly swung at them. Luckily, Jack reacted in time, parrying the blow and saving Liam's life. He followed up with another slash, cutting the troll's club in two. Seeing this, Liam looked back worriedly and said, I'm sorry, master. He smiled and replied, It's fine. For your first real battle, that wasn't bad at all. Aiming for the soft joints was the right choice. But you underestimated its regenerative ability. Remember, a troll can recover from minor wounds almost instantly. So direct attacks like that won't work against its regeneration. Jack looked at the troll, raising its hand in front of him, and continued, Looks like this is a bit beyond your capabilities. A murderous glint appeared in his eyes. He tightened his grip on his sword and said, Just let me finish it. After a furious assault, the troll's head was finally sent flying. The system then displayed a notification, You have defeated a troll. You have received 30 karma points. Jack spoke up. This will give us a lot of bonus points. Hurry and collect it, Liam. He immediately stepped forward and replied, Yes, sir. While he was busy collecting the monster's head, Jack turned his gaze to the system panel. On it was written, "Sudden quest, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Hunt 100 monsters of 10 different types in the dungeon. Time limit 72 hours. Quest reward double karma points. Receive during the quest 2 random boxes." Seeing this, he happily exclaimed, "What double karma points?" The system continued quest status 2 types, 14 monsters. Docile monsters will not be counted. Time remaining 71 hours, 59 minutes, 52 seconds. Jack looked at the timer and thought 79 hours left before the evaluation ends. So the 100 monster condition isn't a problem, but getting 10 different types is going to be tough. Even though this place is huge, it's still an evaluation dungeon, so it usually only has 3 or 4 types at most. But since this is a trap set by those bastards from He-Man, who knows, maybe if we search carefully, we'll find all 10 types. Complete the quest and get out of here, huh? Looks like it won't be easy. Just as he thought that, Liam spoke up. "It's done, Master. Along with the timer, we were also given a bag to hold the heads of the monsters we've killed. Although it's a far cry from a spatial bag, it's good enough for carrying our spoils," he thought. Then he replied, "All right, let's get a move on. Don't fall behind, Liam," he added. "Understood." And so the 2 of them continued to fight. Time passed. 67 hours, 4 minutes, and 16 seconds. 64 hours, 7 minutes, and 60 seconds. 61 hours and 3 seconds. 56 hours and 47 seconds. 47 hours, 1 minute, and 6 seconds. 41 hours, 1 minute, and 41 seconds. The 2 of them discovered a whole series of monsters. 39 hours, 8 minutes, and 4 seconds. 31 hours, 33 minutes, and 44 seconds. Time went on like this. The mission was about to end. 27 hours and 47 seconds. 20 hours, 8 minutes, and 49 seconds. 12 hours, 26 minutes, and 26 seconds. A moment later, Jack looked at Liam and asked, "How's it going, Liam? We've hunted quite a few now. Are you used to actual combat yet?" Hearing this, he gave a forced smile and replied, "I'm not so sure." Seeing this, Jack smiled comfortingly. "It's all right. Everyone needs time to adapt," he said. Jack turned his gaze back to the system panel, which showed the remaining time, 50 minutes and 54 seconds. Mission status, 9 out of 99 monster types. He thought to himself, even after catching those tiny blood-sucking leeches, we only have 9 types. There's nowhere else for us to look. The more he thought about it, the more it bothered him. These damn He-Man bastards are completely useless. Why couldn't they have prepared 1 more type for me? Just as he had that thought, Jack suddenly froze his eyes, widening. He sensed something approaching. With a wary expression, he immediately glanced to the side. A large crack appeared in the ground beneath their feet. Jack shouted anxiously, "Liam, drop that bag." Hearing this, Liam still didn't understand what was happening, his face blank with confusion. Suddenly, a slash tore through the air, ripping the bag in 2. From beneath the ground, a giant monster emerged, blood spilling everywhere. Liam was so scared he went pale, his whole body frozen stiff. Luckily, just then, Jack managed to rush over and save him once again, but Jack's hand was injured in the process. After a moment of shock, Liam asked worriedly, "Are you all right, sir?" He replied, "I'm fine. That's just the monster's blood." He raised his hand and continued, "Stay out of this one, Liam." In front of them, a monster with a hideous body and a mouth full of fangs rose up, letting out a screech. "I don't think I can fight and watch out for you at the same time." He thought to himself, "A dungeon worm, huh? It's an extremely dangerous monster. It usually takes a dozen experienced knights just to subdue one." As he thought this, his anger flared up and he cursed, "Damn it, those He-Man bastards. Are they really going all out to kill me?" The dungeon worm then charged forward at breakneck speed, kicking up a cloud of dust. Liam called out anxiously, "Master." His face darkened as fear washed over him. Suddenly, he remembered something. He glanced back, then walked over to rummage through the contents of the bag. Meanwhile, Jack was still struggling to block the monster worm's attack. He nimbly jumped to one side and swung his sword, slashing at its body, but it had no effect. He thought even the Blue Knights would avoid a confrontation with a dungeon worm in a place like this, because it tends to burrow and move underground if I don't finish it quickly. Just as he thought that, a large crack suddenly appeared in the ground below. Jack quickly sensed its presence. He turned his head to look behind him. Just as he thought, the dungeon worm appeared, lunging straight for him with its fang-filled mouth wide open. It wanted to swallow him whole. I'll be buried alive. Without a second thought, he leaped to the side to dodge. Then Jack swung his sword forward again. He plunged his sword deep into the monster's body, then gritted his teeth and powerfully wrenched the blade. Tearing its body open, the dungeon worm couldn't react in time as blood spewed violently from its mouth. Jack gritted his teeth, resolute. Just you wait. I'll cut you in two. His feet were weighed down by something causing the ground to shatter. At its tail, a series of poisonous barbs appeared, but right now, Jack didn't care about anything else. The only thing on his mind was frantically swinging his sword to slash that damn insect. Just then, the dungeon worm's body slowly tightened. It coiled itself tightly around him, leaving him no room to escape. After securing its prey, it lunged with both its tail and its mouth at the same time. Fortunately, at that very moment, Liam arrived just in time, thrusting his sword straight into the dungeon worm. Struck by the unexpected blow, its whole body convulsed in pain as it reared back and let out a loud roar. Jack then felt something had changed. He thought, the grip has weakened. Seizing the opportunity, he swiftly backed away, escaping the dungeon worm's coils. As soon as he saw Jack, Liam asked, "Are you all right, master?" Jack wiped a trickle of blood from his mouth and asked, "What did you do, Liam?" He held up a vial of potion and replied, "I coated my sword with a paralysis potion, sir." Hearing that, he thought, I see. The main ingredient of the paralysis potion is datura. On humans, it only causes a slight numbness. But to a worm, it's basically a potent poison in a critical situation like this. But for you to remember that the datura plant is the worm's weakness and then improvise by using an anesthetic as a substitute. That's the judgment and adaptability of the king of mercenaries for you. Liam Stone thought to himself. Jack smiled and said, "Liam, when I give the signal, stab it with the sword again." Bringing him along was definitely the right decision. As he finished speaking, he moved with incredible speed. He leaped onto the monster's body again, weaving his way straight toward its head. Then he raised his sword and yelled, "Liam!" Hearing the signal, he quickly used the sword coated in anesthetic. He stabbed it straight into the dungeon worm's body. Taking the hit, it reared its head back in pain and roared. Its entire body was paralyzed by the poison. Seizing this chance, Jack used his sword and activated the spirit manifestation skill. He slashed straight down from its neck, cleaving the monster's body in two and killing it instantly. The system then displayed a notification. You have completed the surprise mission. Karma points received during the mission have been doubled. You have received 2 random boxes. Current karma points, 780. At the same time, outside the dungeon, an announcement was made. The students who have successfully escaped the dungeon, please come here to have your points calculated. Those who are finished may leave. A professor looked at the pile of monsters Zena had collected and said, "All right, I'll start calculating your points now." She replied, "Yes, sir." The professor continued, "Base points for escaping the dungeon, 30 points. 20 goblins, 2 hobgoblins, 1 orc. Total score, 180. Hearing this, the other students couldn't help but be amazed. They murmured among themselves, "That's almost on par with Sir Aben's record of 200 points. As expected of a pure-blooded awakened, they're on a completely different level." The professor also praised her wholeheartedly, truly worthy of the Terraan family. "You've surpassed the passing score by 130 points. She placed a hand on her chest and replied, "Thank you for the compliment, sir." After that, the professor turned to Owen and said, "All right, I'll start calculating your points now." After a moment of calculation, the professor announced, "Total score 120. You've passed by 70 points. Well done." His teammate said cheerfully, "Thank you, sir." Owen, now furious, glared at Zena and thought, "Zena, Terraan, you won't be arrogant forever." Thinking this, he smirked. "If things go south, I'll just have to deal with her the same way I dealt with Jack." Just as he thought that, a familiar voice suddenly rang out. "Whoa, how long has it been since I've seen sunlight?" He immediately turned his head, thinking that voice. Just as he suspected, the person who had just appeared was Jack. And not only that, Liam was carrying the head of the dungeon worm out with him. How is he here? All the students standing nearby were completely stunned. "Is that a dungeon worm? I thought the orc was the highest scoring monster. So why is that thing here? Did they take down that dungeon worm together? After walking up to the professor, the two of them threw the worm's head down. Jack smiled contemptuously and turned to look at Owen. He asked, "Why the surprised look, Owen?" He continued, "Not happy to see me." These words made him seethe with rage. He gritted his teeth, thinking, "This arrogant bastard." But he wasn't done yet. Jack continued to taunt him. "Where's that usual emotionless face of yours?" He put his hands in his pockets and added, "Then again, you look better like this." Owen was provoked into silence, his face darkening. He didn't say a word. Seeing his angry expression as he turned to leave, Jack asked, "Leaving already?" He thought angrily, "Damn you purebloods. I'll make you pay for looking down on me." Seeing them run off made Jack feel satisfied. "So scary." The professor spoke up. "Is your little squabble over?" The student smiled and replied, "Ah, yes, it's over." He continued, "Professor Andre." The professor looked at his papers and began. "In that case, I'll proceed with the scoring." Jack spoke up. "We only have this one. Will it need a separate scoring system?" He replied, "As long as I'm the one scoring, rest assured, I won't miss a thing." He then asked, "Did you two lose your bag for the heads?" Jack replied, "Ah, yes, given the terrible situation back there." All the horrified students covered their mouths and fled. Jack smiled and thought to himself, "Looks like I got pretty lucky. That damn dungeon worm ambushed me, making me lose all the heads I'd collected over the past 3 days. I didn't want to fail, so I had to quickly take its head to make up for the loss." Besides Andre, who else would be meticulous enough to check every piece of flesh and skin stuck between those teeth? After a moment of examination, 2 monster blood-stained gloves were tossed down. The professor spoke, "So far, the identified monster types are Gremlin Goblin." The crowd started murmuring amongst themselves. "What? There were dogs too," Andre continued. "Judging by the amount of blood, there were quite a few of them. However, if we were to acknowledge that, it would be unfair to the other candidates. Therefore, we will count each identified monster type as a single kill. Furthermore, the Minotaur and the Dungeon Worm are not on the official scoring table. However, based on our records, they are equivalent to 3 and 6 orcs respectively. Therefore, they will be converted to 90 and 180 points, for a total score of 368. The other professors were also stunned. How many points did we get back when we were students? Hellhounds weren't even on the scoring table back then. 368 points. How could anyone possibly reach a score like that? Suddenly, an angry student stepped forward and shouted, "That's ridiculous. The only corpse here is the dungeon worms." Another student retorted, "That worm alone is worth 180 points, you know. Besides, what does that even matter now? Think about it, everyone. If you had run into a dungeon worm or even just the Minotaur, do you really think you would have made it out alive?" They exclaimed, "Could Jack Drake really be that talented?" Seeing their reactions, Jack thought to himself, "These guys are making a big deal out of this again. This feels completely different from when they were mocking me before. It's not bad, but I've unintentionally drawn attention to myself again." The He-Man clan went as far as manipulating the test dungeon just to get rid of me. Was this all Owen's idea? No. Even he wouldn't dare interfere with an academy exam. It's possible the He-Man clan itself was directly involved. At this thought, Jack grew worried. It seems I'm being watched more closely than I realized. Being too obvious about hiding my strength could backfire. For now, it's best to just play along and observe. Suddenly, someone approached him from behind. Jack Drake. The person who had just arrived was none other than Raina. Surprised, he exclaimed, "Raina!" With a scowl on her face, she brushed past him and said, "Consider this your win." After saying that, she and her group walked away in silence. Jack was bewildered, thinking to himself, "My win? What is she talking about?" A while later in the training room, he looked at the system panel and said, "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" The system displayed Dragon Skill Level 1 Devour. You can eat a lot and digest just as much. Requires 50 points to unlock. Current karma points 780. Seeing this, he said, "I ignored it because it seemed useless, but spending 50 points now is no big deal." The system asked, "Do you wish to activate the Dragon Skill Devour?" He replied, "Yes." The moment he spoke, the system panel changed drastically. Jack was startled, thinking, the skill's description, it changed. The system displayed Dragon Skill Level 1 Devour. When used, anything can be digested and converted into energy. Furthermore, consuming monsters that possess bloodline abilities will allow you to absorb them. Their powers. Hearing this, he smiled intrigued. Absorb the powers of monsters, huh? I should have activated this before the exam. To understand it better, I'll try converting energy first. The system displayed activating dragon skill Devour before Jack could even take a bite of the meat. A sudden stream of black energy pushed the piece of meat aside. Startled, he glanced behind him. The sight before him was incredibly strange. He exclaimed, "What is this?" On the ground, the piece of meat was slowly being pulled down by some unseen force. Jack thought, "It looks like it's sinking into a swamp. Is the meat disappearing into my shadow?" Suddenly, the system announced, replenishing lost energy with the newly absorbed energy. My headache is subsiding. It feels like I just took a short nap. Did it reduce my mental fatigue? Not only that, my entire body feels full of vitality. Mental fatigue, physical exhaustion, even my energy. It's only a little, but I've definitely recovered. Activate Dragon Skill Devour. With that thought, he continued to toss more meat down. This was completely worth the 50 points. With this skill alone, I can reduce the risks. Of all my other skills, mental fatigue can be cleared with Devour, and physical fatigue is handled by infinite stamina. The more Jack thought about it, the more excited he became. He threw his head back and laughed loudly. This means I can train for 24 hours straight without eating or sleeping. Let's get right to it. Just as he said that, a sudden knock on the door echoed, killing his mood. He called out wearily, "Dick, didn't I tell you before? Don't bother me when I'm training." The man outside replied, "My apologies, young master, but this is an important message, so I had to deliver it to you immediately." He asked, "An important message?" The man said, "Your sword is complete, sir." Hearing that, Jack exclaimed with joy, "Finally!" A while later at Hanber's Forge, Jack called out, "Ganiel, is my sword finished?" He replied, "Yes, please wait a moment." He sat waiting, lost in thought. In my past life, the sword I got from Ganiel was forged from Midrin and pure iron. The legendary sword Graham. Anyone could tell it was a masterpiece. Even though I provided a dragon's fang as the material this time, I figured it would still look just like Graham. That's why. However, his expectations were completely shattered when he saw the sword. It wasn't a brilliant golden sword, but a pitch black one. A solid black mass lay in the wooden box. "What is this?" Jack picked up the sword with one hand, holding it up to observe it. He silently noted its plain appearance. Jack then asked Handback, "Did you intentionally leave the blade unsharpened?" Handback replied, "This is how the sword is supposed to be." Jack glanced at him, then placed the sword back in its box. "So, this is the form you think suits me best," he said. Handbeck stammered, "Yes." As he looked at the man before him, Handbeck thought, "Most people would be bewildered by it, but you understood my intentions perfectly." Seeing Jack's contemplative expression, Handbeck suddenly thought, "If it's him." He then said to Jack, "Master, actually this sword doesn't have a name yet. I tried to name it myself, but I couldn't come up with anything." Then he asked, "Will you name it yourself, Master?" Jack pointed to himself, bewildered. "Me name it." Jack's expression suddenly changed as he thought back to the Sun Temple. Graham was the name Ganiel himself gave it, but now he's just calling it a new version of Graham made from a dragon's fang. But this is a completely different sword from Graham. With that thought, Jack decisively drew a sharp knife and cut his hand. "A name, huh?" Handback, utterly astonished, exclaimed, "Master, what are you doing?" Jack didn't answer him, thinking instead, even if self-healing is always active, it's still a skill I use. I should be able to control it. Handback, worried sick, urged him, "Quick, stop the bleeding." A system notification appeared, confirming administrator's request. The self-healing class skill will be temporarily disabled. A blue aura enveloped Jack's hand. At the same time, the cut stopped healing on its own. Jack thought to himself, "All right." It worked. Now he closed his eyes and dripped his blood onto the sword. Handback watched, puzzled. Could this be a sword naming ceremony? The sword naming ceremony, a traditional dwarven ritual to name a weapon. The user transfers their aura or spirit energy into their blood, and the ceremony begins when that blood touches the sword. A ritual where the performer sinks deep into their subconscious, wandering through an eternity of time until they find the sword's name. It's so dangerous that it has been almost completely forgotten. But you You know this ancient dwarven ritual. How is this possible? From the countless names that surface, you must find the one that you will carry forward. A name for a new path. A new name. Jack had found a new name, Black Sword Bahamut. Then a system notification appeared. Black Sword Bahamut has been registered as equipment. Jack looked up at the glowing sword in front of him. Jack was the one who named the sword, but he looked at it doubtfully. Of all the names, I had to pull out the name of that evil dragon. Is my subconscious all right? Harbert, however, paid no mind to Jack's thoughts and just kept praising him. As expected, you are amazing, master. Even most dwarves are unaware of the sword naming ceremony. Jack replied humbly, I just happened to learn about it while studying dwarven history. He looked at his bandaged wound and wondered, when was the last time I had to use a bandage? Suddenly, Harbert stepped forward and offered, Master, would you like to rest for a bit? There's something I really want to show you. Jack replied casually, all right, take your time. Harbert immediately thanked him. Thank you, sir. After Harbert left, Jack looked down at his bandaged arm, remembering the system notification about temporarily disabling the self-healing skill. He thought being able to control a passive skill is a big deal. Recalling his memories, he reasoned, this means I can prevent my abilities from being exposed like what happened with the Duke. Jack touched the bandage, thinking to himself, I don't have to show all my cards. Sorry, Ganiel, but I'll take this bandage off later. Then he glanced at the sword leaning in the corner and smiled faintly. But for now, the more important thing is to check this first. A system window displayed the sword's information. Black Sword Bahamut, a sword forged by a master craftsman, forged with a mystical eye using the strongest fang of the cursed dragon Bahamut. Refined by blue flower spirit energy, unique ability indestructible, aura conversion, special feature sealed, unlocks according to the user's growth. After reading the information, Jack seemed excited. Unlocks according to the user's growth. I've never heard of a weapon like this. And it even has the indestructible trait. It's made from a dragon's fang, but this is just absurd. Thinking this, Jack picked up the sword. Whoa! Even so, his face was reflected on the blade. The most important thing is the aura conversion. Jack thought, I went through so much trouble to help Ganiel create the magic current and forge the sword, not just because of his outstanding skills, but also because of Graham's core ability, aura conversion. Aura Sorarisukoi. He slowly began to feel the flow of power from the sword, a unique ability that converts eager spirit energy or any other energy into an aura from the user's hand. A blue aura began to radiate, gradually enveloping Jack and the sword. I was born unable to use spirit energy, but this is what helped me reach the rank of Crimson Knight. Harbert scratched his head as he walked out of the room and sighed. Phew, I finally found it. My apologies, Master. You've been waiting a long time, haven't you? But as he stepped out, he was stunned by the sight before him. Jack, with the sword slung over his shoulder, grinned at him. So, you're here. Harbert gasped. Whoa, an aura, he thought in awe. A pure aura is enveloping the sword. Master, you've already surpassed the level of a purple knight. Jack said to Harbert, this sword, it's truly unbelievable. You worked hard, Galleon. Harbert laughed in reply. This is nothing compared to the forge. More importantly, he held a scabbard out to Jack. Could you please take a look at this? Jack looked curiously at the object in Harbert's hand. A scabbard, Harbert continued. My master crafted this scabbard himself. Jack stared pensively at the scabbard, thinking, even in my past life, I never heard about Galleon's master, Gulrin Iover. A thought suddenly struck him. What Gulrin Iover? As in the Gulrin Iover known as the pinnacle of blacksmithing, the greatest smith on the continent whose skills are unrivaled among the dwarves. Gulrin's creations are near perfect and possess numerous special abilities, making them worth tens of thousands of gold to collectors. Jack rubbed his chin and looked at Harbert. So that means you're Gulrin's apprentice, Harbert said in awe. As expected, you can read the dwarven runes, Jack continued. If it's from Gulrin, then this is no ordinary scabbard. Harbert said confidently, of course. He then flicked a dial on the scabbard. If you turn the dial on its face, it transforms into a shield, like this. The moment he finished speaking, the scabbard transformed into an incredibly sturdy shield. Harbert explained its features. It's made from wyvern bone and mithril. It can block most attacks. If you turn the dial on the handle down, it will revert back to a scabbard. He then offered the scabbard to Jack. Though it's nowhere near enough to repay your kindness, Master, please accept it. This is my gift to you. Jack was puzzled. You could sell this to build a forge, you know. Harbert laughed heartily. I could never sell my master's work to anyone. Jack tried to persuade him, but it's worth tens of thousands of gold. Harbert was shocked. What is that true? But Jack continued. Well, regardless, I'll gratefully accept it. Jack took the scabbard. It looked smaller than the sword in his hand. As he thought this, he tried sheathing the sword. But if this is a creation of Golrin Iover, then it must. He watched as the scabbard's exterior morphed to perfectly match the sword. Jack was pleased. Just as I thought. This thing is far beyond my expectations. He said happily to Harbert, I've received a truly precious gift. Thank you, Galleon. Seeing how pleased he was with the gift, Harbert felt happy as well. I'm glad you like it. Upon returning, Jack resumed his examination of the gauntlets he had received. Meteorite iron, that's an incredibly rare material. The system displayed information on the gauntlets he was holding. Gauntlet information, gauntlets forged from meteorite iron. Durable and lightweight. One unique ability. No special features. The unique ability will be activated when the full meteorite iron set is equipped. 2 random boxes were given as a quest reward. Jack looked at the first one. He opened it, his expression a mix of surprise and caution. A random box from an unexpected quest reward. I figured it would be like a treasure chest, but what's inside is far more valuable. There was still 1 box left unopened. Jack quickly unboxed it as well. Now for the second one. The box slowly opened, but when he saw its contents, an expression of pure confusion appeared on Jack's face. What is this? Jack picked up a piece of old-looking paper that was colored in several places. He wondered, what could this be? A map. Suddenly, Jack's eyes widened in astonishment as a system notification appeared before him. We have detected a map containing traces of Grandmaster Kaiser. Jack wondered, Kaiser, could he mean Hero King Kaiser? Hero King Kaiser and the Knights of the Clock Tower was a popular book across the continent chronicling the journey of Kaiser and his knights in their quest to overthrow the Kronos Kingdom, once a brilliant civilization. However, its contents were considered too fantastical and no historical evidence existed to corroborate it. Thus, it was dismissed as mere fiction, but given the system's notification, Jack's hands trembled as he clutched the map. So, Hero King Kaiser was real. Another system notification appeared, restoring and analyzing damaged portions of the item. Analysis complete. Confirmed location has been marked on the minimap. Jack froze, staring at the system screen. This is... Looking at the map before him, he thought, the giant mountains. That's the territory of the Manji people. This might be easier than I thought. As Jack sat there thinking, a small system window suddenly appeared beside him. He looked at it and read, based on user level, the tutorial process will now conclude. Jack was a bit confused. The tutorial is ending. He hadn't even had time to process the last notification. Then another notification popped up beside his hand. You have found a quest-linked item. Achievement Quest Kaiser's Legacy. Collect Kaiser's vision from a ruin. Containing traces of Kaiser. Time limit none. Quest. Reward System Administrator. Level up. Current level low-rank administrator to mid-rank administrator. Jack understood. I see. So the tutorial was a system designed to get me to a certain level. Jack smiled faintly. I've taken the first step. Now the real game begins. He was getting excited. Even the rewards are on a completely different level. After reviewing the rewards and all those notifications, Jack slowly stood up. All right then. A determined smile spread across his face. I'll devour it all, leaving nothing behind. First, I need to use the points I've saved up. System notifications began to appear. Tier 2 Dragon Skills are now available. Viewing Tier 2 Dragon Skills. Tier 2 Dragon Skill Dragon Scale Armor. Hardens into Dragon Scales, providing excellent magic resistance. Locked. Unlock. Cost 80 points. Dragon Claw. Summons a mighty dragon's claw to slash the enemy. Locked. Unlock. Cost 80 points. Jack thought, I have a decent amount of points right now, but I don't know when. I'll get another chance to earn this many again. As much as I want them for now, I should just invest in some potions and the Tier 2 dragon skills and keep 400 points in reserve. With that decided, he tapped the screen. The system immediately announced, activating Dragon Skill, Dragon Scale Armor, activating Dragon Skill, Dragon Claw. In an instant, the Dragon Skills activated on Jack's body. He quickly decided to test his new skills. Let's try out Dragon Claw first. Model. Jack swung his arm in a wide arc, instantly carving a huge gash into the floor. Looking at the mark he'd just made, Jack exclaimed, "Huh, this is even better than I expected." Then he swung the sword again to test his other dragon skill. All right, next up, Dragon Scale Armor. A massive clang echoed from the impact, and the sword in Jack's hand was violently knocked backward. Jack was surprised. I didn't even use my aura, but even at full strength, instead of cutting through the blade, just bounced right off me. It's like I'm wearing a full suit of armor, even without wearing any. Rolling his shoulder, Jack thought, Dragon Claw for offense, Dragon Scale Armor for defense. Pretty straightforward. All right, warm-up's over. Time to get started. The scene changes to the central training grounds of Draker Academy. A voice echoed across the field. All right, before we begin the practical exam for aura control, I will go over the rules. The instructor holding a sword continued. Behind me, you can see the training dummies. They are specially constructed. A normal physical attack. I can't even scratch them. As he spoke, he drew the tip of his sword across a dummy. However, if you imbue your attack with aura, they can be easily destroyed. After the demonstration, he sheathed his sword and continued his lecture. But if you can't even manage to break one, he then looked at everyone with a sharp, cold gaze. Then you will fail, regardless of your previous assessments. You will have to start over from the very basics. Hearing this, the students grew tense, breaking out in a sweat and whispering amongst themselves. Start over. That means we won't get promoted. The instructor shouted, Silence! When I call your name, step forward. Next, Aaron! The boy named Aaron rushed forward looking incredibly nervous. Standing behind Owen thought, all the rookies are so tense and worried. He let out a smug smirk. But for me, this training method is just like my family's. Or a technique. After all, the aura curriculum at this academy was established by the He-Man family. He then glanced over at Jackin and Jack standing behind him. No matter how talented those true blood awakened are, they can't surpass me. When it comes to aura control, just then the instructor called out, Next, Owen! Owen confidently stepped forward with his sword, ignoring the instructor's words to only advance when ready. He stomped his foot and swung his sword. Seeing the aura enveloping him, everyone around was astonished. Sword resonance. The examiner turned and said to the instructor, To have achieved sword resonance at only 13 years old, that's impressive. The instructor just replied coldly, It's to be expected from someone of a famous noble family. A flash of light appeared. One dummy's torso was slashed. The second's head was cut. All they could see were streaks of light as the other dummies were also torn to shreds. The other students were left speechless by the sight. All the dummies there had been slashed to ribbons by Owen's sword. The examiner immediately praised him. Excellent. As expected of the He-Man family, he placed a hand on Owen's shoulder encouragingly. At this rate, he might even surpass Lord Aben. But in response to this praise, instead of being happy like any other normal student, Owen gritted his teeth and slapped the man's hand away. Watching his angry back as he walked off, the examiner whispered, What's with that attitude? The instructor crossed his arms and frowned. Tisk, what an arrogant brat. After that, names were called one after another as the other students took their turn. But it seemed none of them were doing very well. The examiner looked at the scoreboard and grunted, Looks like they're all struggling. The instructor said they must have lost their confidence after seeing Owen's display. He glanced at the students, thinking, still no one has actually failed yet, even if it was just a tiny chip. Every student in the advanced class can imbue their blade with aura, but even in a place full of elites, the truly powerful always stand out. Just then, it was Gina's turn to take the test. She spoke up, I'm ready. Before starting, she addressed the instructor. Sir, I have a request. The instructor replied, Speak. Gina looked at him with a determined gaze and stated her request. I wish to be evaluated on my use of the Dragon Slayer technique. The instructor told her, "That's an evaluation for the upper-level classes." Gina remained resolute. "I'm aware." The students below saw her like this. And a thought arose among them. Tisk. Ever since she awakened as a true blood, she's become unbearably arrogant. The difficulty of simply imbuing a blade with aura and using a Dragon Slayer technique are on completely different levels. Just maintaining aura on a blade is already incredibly difficult. But a Dragon Slayer technique requires precise control to allocate the right amount of aura for every single movement. Owen thought, she'll probably manage 2 or 3 swings before she loses control of her aura. Vina Terraan, that competitive streak of yours is going to be your downfall. The instructor asked Gina skeptically, "The conditions for failure will be much stricter. Are you absolutely sure?" Vina affirmed, "I'm sure." The instructor relented. "Very well, as you wish." Vina bowed her head. "Thank you." With that, she raised her sword. The other students watched intently as Gina began her test. A stream of aura quickly enveloped her. She swung her sword down hard, slashing a line across the first dummy. After that, countless streaks of light flashed by, dicing the other dummies into pieces. On the final dummy, Vina decisively thrust her sword straight through its torso. The dummy shattered into pieces. Vina had completed her test. Behind her, the fragments of the dummies lay scattered across the floor. The students who witnessed it couldn't stop exclaiming in awe. "Just by watching, you can tell she's on another level." And here I thought Owen was. He's the best at light aura control. But compared to her, he's not even close. That's what everyone's whispering. Owen gritted his teeth, veins popping on his face in fury. "Damn it!" panting. Gina spun around. She pointed her sword straight at Owen, surprising him. He furrowed his brow, wondering, "What is this? Are you mocking me?" But then his expression changed. He slowly turned around his face, tensing up. "No." From the start, the sword was indeed pointed at him. But there was someone more formidable standing behind him. Jack smirked contemptuously. "You're not even worthy of my attention." Jack scratched his head in annoyance, thinking to himself, "Looks like this is going to be a pain." He recalled the way Gina had been looking at him. She glared at me like that. So I can't just ignore this. Oh well, should I live up to her expectations a little? With that thought, he raised his hand and said, "Excuse me, instructor, I'd also like to be graded based on the dragon-slaying arts." Hearing this, the professor's face soured. He shot Jack a glare and asked, "You said your name is Jack, correct? Do you think the dragon-slaying arts are simple for you just because you saw student Gina perform it with ease?" He continued, "Student Gina is a pure-blooded awakened," just as he said that. He was cut off by someone else. The grading conditions will be the same as student Gina's. Is that a problem? Hearing that, Jack smiled confidently and replied, "Of course not, sir." Without hesitation, he got into position. The other professor, still displeased, asked, "Why did you allow this?" Oit. That student is marked as present for every class, but I've never seen him attend even once. The other professor replied, "That's the result of a bet this student won against Instructor Andre. You're new, so you probably haven't heard. A pure-blooded awakened with an unprecedented golden light. There's a rumor that a student broke Lord Aben's 6th record in the dungeon exploration test." That's him right over there. Jack Drake. A system notification appeared. Black Sword Bahamut has detected ether, activating Black Sword Bahamut's unique ability, Aura Conversion, converting ether into aura. His expression grew worried as he thought, "Damn it, compressing this is harder than I thought." After calming himself, he tightened his grip on the sword and smirked. "This should be enough, right?" Without further delay, Jack began to swing his sword. The moment she saw the attack, Gina recognized it instantly. Her eyes widened as she exclaimed, "That technique! What Jack is using is the dragon-slaying art's first form, Heaven's Cleave." She thought worriedly, "If I don't..." Compared to Instructor Andre's, it's nearly perfect. The single strike he unleashed split the scarecrow clean in two. This is the dragon-slaying art I practiced over and over for 2 years before my regression. From the direction of the swing, to the placement of my feet, and even the flow of aura, my body can now move automatically without even thinking. As he thought this, Jack planted his feet on the ground, steadying his body. He looked at the sword in his hand and thought, even though I got sick of practicing this technique over and over, It seems reviewing the basics isn't so bad. This should be enough to motivate Gina. Just as he had that thought, a sudden burst of whispers startled him. Wait, just now. He definitely coded his sword in aura right. No, for real, I saw it too. The entire sword. Does that mean... Jack has already reached the level of a Death Knight. Hearing these words, he was startled and exclaimed, I must have gotten too into it. Right behind him, all the wooden dummies had been smashed to pieces. I think I unconsciously let my aura leak out. I only meant to adjust it to match the level of... Gina. Damn it. I went and drew attention to myself again. The two professors were also left speechless. A first-year student has already reached the level of a Death Knight. Hearing those words, Owen was so furious his fists trembled. A fear he didn't want anyone to know about had awakened within him. Meanwhile, over with Gina. Her hands were also clenched into fists, but her expression was completely different from Owen's. The corner of her mouth curved into a slight smile. A while later, in a large room, someone placed a teacup on the table and spoke. I've heard about your performance in the semester evaluation. Hogwarts continued. It seems you achieved quite an astonishing result, didn't you? Jack replied. It was just luck, sir. Not stopping there, he continued to ask, reaching the level of a Death Knight at only 13 years old. And you call that just luck. So Jack, what do you think about taking the grade skip test? Hearing that, I was a bit confused and asked, a grade skip test, sir? Do you mean skipping a grade? He replied, it could be one or even more. It's a program for outstanding students like you. Hearing his words, I thought to myself, looks like they took the bait faster than I thought. Hogwarts must have drawn more attention than expected, so this is only natural. Thinking this, Jack smiled and replied, all right, I'll do it. And with that, the conversation ended. The door slowly closed. A murderous aura flared around Jack as he walked away, thinking, looks like he's got a plan. If he wants to play, I'll play along. Inside Hogwarts' room, he sat facing the window. Suddenly, he reached into his robe and took something out. He spoke, Vina Draker and Jack Draker, both pure-blooded awakeners, have accepted the test. In response, a voice came from somewhere. I understand. I'll arrange everything necessary. Hogwarts then revealed a cunning smile and uttered, things are about to get interesting. Scene change at the Draker Academy, inside the advanced aura training room. Zena was already there. She glanced to the side. Standing next to her was none other than Jack. He didn't dare to look back, avoiding her gaze with a forced smile. He broke into a cold sweat, thinking, the least I could do is pretend I wasn't spying on her. Oi! Just as he thought that, someone pushed the door open and said, sorry to keep you waiting. The person approached and continued, the one supervising today's grade skip test is a high-ranking knight from the main family. Before the two of them stood a man with white hair and a scar across his face. Sir On Draker. As soon as he saw the man, Jack recognized him immediately. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, this guy is... He wondered to himself, the silent flow sword. A memory quickly flooded his mind. Back then, On was holding a dazed man in his arms. Just as he set the other man down, Jack appeared right behind him. With an annoyed look, he asked, Drake. Finishing his sentence, he immediately reached behind his back to draw his sword and continued, why are the damn dogs of the Empire here? However, On didn't react to the question. Jack didn't draw his sword either. He carefully observed the ground. In front of the man was a child. On began to dig at the earth with his bare hands. Jack could feel the man's immense pain of loss. Jack didn't say anything more. He just stood there silently watching On dig a grave for the child. Suddenly, a shovel landed in the ground nearby, startling him into looking up. Jack approached and said, need a hand? Before he could answer, Jack continued, even if you say no, I'm helping anyway. As he dug, he added, I'm Jack Murata of the Northern Alliance. You're a Draker, right? Hearing this, On replied, no, I've abandoned the name Draker. Jack asked back, then, we're the same. What should I call you? He replied, just call me the Silent Flow Sword. Back in the present, Jack smiled at On, thinking, On, a name that perfectly suits a quiet, cold sword. Anyway, thinking this, they both placed a hand on their chest, bowed their heads, and said, greetings, sir, On Draker. To think they'd need a high-ranking knight just to supervise a first-year student's grade skip test. A high-ranking knight is in fact a pillar that supports the entire Draker family, a high-level title that requires a balance of strength, fame, and experience. A truly prestigious position. Just then, a professor standing nearby spoke up. The test method will be a sword duel, something familiar to those from the cradle, I suppose. As long as you haven't lost consciousness or given up, you can continue the challenge. Give it everything you've got. Hearing this, Zena began to draw her sword and replied, "Then I'll go first." But the professor immediately cut her off. No. He continued, "There's no need to come up one by one. Just come at me all at once." An's expression turned cold, his eyes filled with killing intent as he said softly, "There's no need to come up one by one. Just come at me all at once." These words made Zena furious. She gripped her sword tightly, but Jack immediately stopped her. He said, "Don't be so rash. You know the difference in our strength." He glanced at her with a smile and added, "Besides, the test has already started. If you rush in without controlling your emotions, you'll lose points." Hearing Jack's words, Zena calmed down. She let out a sigh and then asked, "So what should we do, Jack Draker?" Jack smiled and thought to himself, as expected of the genius Zena, such quick judgment. Thinking that, he replied, "We already have the perfect plan for this situation. We'll land one precise strike on him." And so the duel began. The two of them stood on opposite sides, focusing intently on On. Jack watched as he drew his sword. He thought, a special single-edged sword from the Eastern Kingdom, a wandu. It's known that a wandu is a short, single-edged, one-handed sword designed to be used with a shield. It originated from the Joseon dynasty and was named after the ring on its scabbard, where a strap was attached to make it easier for the user to carry. Thinking this, he murmured, "So, he's been using this sword for a very long time. It seems Gina's pride has been wounded. But what good are honor and pride to the weak?" As he thought this, he looked her straight in the eye and gave a slight nod, signaling that all she had to do was set aside her personal feelings and focus on the strategy. She quickly understood. Her gaze hardened with resolve as she nodded in return. Having reached an understanding, they both immediately swung their swords and charged straight for On. But before their swords could even touch him, he moved like lightning, unleashing a flurry of blows that easily intercepted their attacks. And it wasn't just Zena. Jack was also trying his hardest to get close, but he couldn't get near him at all. The two of them refused to give up coordinating their attacks seamlessly. Suddenly, with a loud crash, On struck them both, sending them flying backward. Witnessing those moves, Vina was in awe, thinking to herself, "So, this is a high-ranking knight. Even though I kept aiming for his blind spots like Jack told me to, I couldn't land a single effective blow. I couldn't even scratch him." With that thought, without hesitation, she used her technique Dragon Slaying Arts Chapter 3 Verse 1. "I have to be ready to kill." With that resolve, she brought her sword straight down in front of On. Crescent moon slash, but he wasn't so easy to deal with. He quickly dodged backward, then lashed out with a kick that struck Zena before she could even react. The powerful kick sent her flying backward, slamming hard into the ground as dust billowed up. The others standing nearby saw this and rushed to her side. "Lady Zena Draker, are you all right?" Hearing them, she steadied herself against a piece of the broken wall and replied, "I'm fine." She wiped a trickle of blood from her mouth, warning everyone, "It's dangerous here. All of you get back." Even if it was just for a moment. Did I really lose consciousness and create an opening? With my current strength, there's no way I could have done that. As this thought crossed her mind, she looked over at Jack, wondering, "Do you really believe I can do it?" Jack Draker. Vina recalled his earlier words. She had been furious at the time. "There's no way I'm taking part in such a cowardly strategy. Are you trying to tarnish an honorable duel, Jack Drake?" Hearing that he had laughed and asked, "And can you eat honor?" "This isn't a duel between knights. It's a test. They're testing our ability to kill." Faced with such logical words, Vina didn't know how to argue. She sighed and replied, "Fine. All right. I was the one who asked for your opinion after all. But do you really think that strategy will work? Our opponent is a high-ranking knight, you know." He had smiled and replied, "We just have to create a situation that forces it to work. It's just like when you fought me back in Credo. Think about it. Why couldn't you dodge that stone?" She answered, "Because I never expected you to resort to such a dirty trick." "Exactly," he replied. A smirk played on Jack's lips as he continued, "It's the same for a high-ranking knight. Just wait for my signal. It'll definitely work. A tiny opening is all we need.